Well, good afternoon, everybody. 7 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. We're kicking off 4 big hours of this thing we call the drive, where we drive you home. We drive home salient points, and then we drive the liberals just a little bit crazy. If we do all those things, we consider it a win. We go home and we say we had a good day. So we're gonna try to have a good day here. A lot of stuff to share with you, as you may have heard by now, and if you haven't, let me be the first to tell you that Kamala. By the way, can we just stop this for a moment? She goes by Kamala. She calls herself Kamala. She doesn't call herself Kamala. And everybody says, well, if you say Kamala, you're saying it wrong. That's the way she says it. I mean, when she called her running mate, she said, hey, it's Kamala. So I just want to say Kamala is the way you say it. And I've been right all along. But other people apparently, want to call her Kamala. Kamala has picked her running mate. It is Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has run. Who had Tim Walz on your bingo card? I know I didn't see it coming. I thought it might be Shapiro, but no, that for obvious reasons we'll explain later. Shapiro apparently was unacceptable. There was a lot of talk about Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, but I never got the sense that was serious. In fact, there was some early reporting that he hadn't even received the vetting materials, so I don't know why that kept coming up. So who is Tim Walz? Well, here's the Wall Street Journal take on it. Harris called Walz a battle-tested leader. Hold on to that thought for a moment. We'll come back to that because there's a real question about whether or not he is at all battle-tested or whether he runs from a battle. He has an incredible track record of getting things done, Kamala says. She said on social media that Walz's convictions on fighting for middle-class families runs deep. It's personal. Two-term governor of Minnesota, don't you know, and current chairman of the Democrat Governors Association. Walz could be helpful, perhaps, in the battleground states of Wisconsin and Michigan. He's already well known in western Wisconsin because it shares media markets with Minnesota, while Michigan has some economic and cultural similarities with how the state he now governs. So, there's some niceties. He isn't widely known. A lot of people, when they heard the news this morning, went, who? 71% of Americans know absolutely nothing. They've never heard the name of Tim Walz. I'd be surprised if it's that high. I bet it's more like 80, 90%. Because, I don't know much about him. But I'm learning. So remember this thing that she says. He's battle-tested, right? Battle-tested is what Kamala says. Well, let's explore that, shall we? Tim Walz left the National Guard battalion hanging and slithered out the door before Iraq deployment, say vets in Minnesota. Veterans have accused Minnesota Governor Tim Walz of embellishing his military career and abandoning his National Guard battalion, highlighting the now vice presidential pick for the Democrats never served in combat and retired from service just ahead of his unit's 2005 deployment to Iraq. In a letter posted to Facebook in 2018 as he first ran for governor, retired Command Sergeant Major Thomas Behrens and Paul Herr said Walz retired from his 24-year tenure in the National Guard after learning that his battalion would soon be deployed to Iraq, despite allegedly assuring his fellow troops that he would join him there. On May 16, 2005, Walz quit, betraying his country, leaving the first 125th Field Artillery Battalion and its soldiers hanging without its senior non-commissioned officer as the battalion prepared for war. Walz, age 60, wrapped his military career just in time for him to launch his political career the following year, successfully running for Congress in 2006. Behrens and Herr criticized him for leaving the National Guard for Congress, despite being fully aware he could have requested permission from the Pentagon to seek office while he was on active duty. Walz further dodged the necessary paperwork to ensure a smooth transition out of military service and instead, quote, slithered out the door, the pair added, with his retirement filing showing a soldier not available for signature. The National Guard members also accused the now two-term Minnesota governor of having embellished and selectively omitted facts of his military career. Walz said he has an honorable record. We all do what we can. I'm proud I did 24 years. Walz joined the National Guard after high school, served in the 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery before his retirement, where he obtained the rank of Commandant Sergeant Major. During the subsequent tenure in Congress, Walz came out in opposition against then-President George W. Bush's plan to increase troop levels. But you got Kamala on one hand saying, oh, he's battle-tested. And here you have people who knew him who said that he ran from a battle, basically slithered out of the National Guard just as the timing couldn't be more suspect. Just as they get the word that, hey, we're about to deploy to Iraq, he quits. So there's that. I think somebody's got some splaining to do in that. From FoxNews.com, 5 controversies surrounding vice presidential nominee Tim Walz. They range from DUI to COVID fraud. All right, so number one is a 1995 DUI arrest. Walz, in past campaigns, has sought to downplay his arrest for drunken driving in the mid-'90s. But questions about his run-in with law enforcement continued to dog him. A 2022 report by Alpha News unearthed court records that cast doubt on the version of the story Walz has told on the campaign trail. On September 23rd, 1995, when Walz was working as a teacher in his home state of Nebraska, he was pulled over for doing 96 and a 55. 96 miles an hour and a 55. In comments to reporters, Walz's 2006 campaign for Congress in Minnesota's 1st District, he insisted he was not drunk and blamed a misunderstanding with police on his deafness, which the governor's then campaign manager has since been surgically corrected. But a state trooper report obtained by Alpha News contradicts those claims. A strong odor of alcoholic beverage was detected emitting from Mr. Walz's breath and person. The trooper indicated that Walz submitted to and failed both a field sobriety test and a preliminary breath test. He was eventually taken to Chadron Hospital for blood tests before being booked in the Dawes County Jail. Walz was initially charged with driving under the influence and speeding, but he ended up pleading guilty to a single count of reckless driving. And they got a good lawyer, I guess. Walz's critics say the handling of the Minneapolis riots, that's the next thing, after the 2020 killing of George Floyd was a failure and a low point of his first term as governor. He's been a disaster for Minnesota and is by far the most partisan governor that I can remember having, said Minnesota GOP Chairman David Hahn. Going back to 2020, certainly he did nothing to try to stop the riots going on in Minneapolis. I think he was fearful of alienating his progressive base who were supporting the riots. Kamala Harris was raising money for the rioters, something that J.D. Vance mentioned today when he was asked about this nomination.
My view on it is it just highlights how radical Kamala Harris is. This is a person who listened to the Hamas wing of her own party and selecting a nominee. This is a guy who's proposed shipping more manufacturing jobs to China, who wants to make the American people more reliant on garbage energy instead of good American energy, and has proposed defunding the police just as Kamala Harris does. I think it's interesting, actually, they make an interesting tag team because, of course, Tim Walz allowed rioters to burn down Minneapolis in the summer of 2020, and then the few who got caught, Kamala Harris helped bail them out of jail. So it is more instructive for what it says about Kamala Harris, that she doesn't care about the border, she doesn't care about crime, she doesn't care about American energy, and most importantly, she doesn't care about the Americans who have been made to suffer under those policies.
There you go. Not cutting, not trying to pull any punch there. He actually just laid it on the line. By the way, J.D. Vance is a great communicator. He really is. Well, anyway, there's a lot of talk about how he did not want to go after the rioters. He didn't do anything. Republicans in the state had to go around him to call President Trump at the time. And I know Walz finally brought the guard out in full the next night, but 3 days was too late. pressure from the TV stations and the reporters and the community may have made him move, but it was not his first instinct. He let the thing go for 3 days before he launched the National Guard. There are questions about how he handled the COVID lockdowns. Here's one. In his first term as governor, Walz oversaw Minnesota's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Like other Democrat leaders, he favored heavy-handed pandemic restrictions, including lockdowns and mask mandates. Walz also set up a hotline. You ready for this? Set up a hotline to report residents who violated his COVID-19 mandates. It sounded a little like this when you called in.
Hello, you have reached the Department of Public Safety stay-at-home hotline. The information you leave is considered public information. At the tone, please leave the following information: your name, your callback number, how the stay-at-home order is being violated, and where the stay-at-home order was violated. Thank you.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
I mean, it was a COVID snitch line. You could call, my neighbor's not wearing their mask in the front yard, and they would come out and investigate it. I don't know. In addition to complaints over Walz's pandemic-era restrictions, Republicans have blamed the governor for lax oversight of pandemic programs that cost millions of dollars to taxpayers. Walz came under fire from the Hennepin County Attorney, Mary Moriarty, earlier this year for his comments on a police shooting case handled by her office. Moriarty in June dropped the case against Minnesota State Trooper Ryan Laundegren, who was accused in the fatal shooting of black motorist Ricky Cobb II. In a press conference announcing her decision, she made remarks against Walz, saying he has been very active in inserting himself into this case and was conflicted since he controls the Minnesota State Patrol. Have you ever seen this governor intervene in any case involving a defendant in his entire tenure? Why is it appropriate for a governor who has never picked up the phone to call me, who is not a lawyer, who does not understand the nuances of this case, to talk about it publicly? To center Mr. Laundegren as being the victim in this case, why has that been appropriate? Why hasn't he been called out? Walz later told reporters that Moriarty had not dropped the charges against Laundegren. He would have used his executive authority to remove her from the case. The governor stepping in to the prosecution of a particular case. Donald Trump, pretty happy with all of this. His two-word response this morning on Truth Social when Kamala announced that she was picking Tim Walz as her vice presidential running mate was thank you. They believe they got a lot of stuff as you have. I've been going through some of it, right? Let's see. Vice President Kamala Harris picking Governor Tim Walz as a running mate met with media scorn, such as, that's a very weird choice, since they like to throw out the... In fact, he's the one who started the weird thing. Tim Walz is. Harris, the Democrat Party presidential nominee, chose Walz over Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, who is considered to be the top contender. And my fears about Harris are that she's incredibly bad at public speaking and that she reliably makes bad decisions. So far, she's done nothing to allay either fear. I'm not saying she can't win, but I wish she gave more confidence, said Washington Post columnist Megan McArdle. All right, we got another little thing here. Van Jones says that there's some things to be concerned about here. Van Jones. Now, I mean, I think he likes it. I think he believes, he's very progressive, and he likes that about it. But he said it's not a pick without controversy.
A lot of people are excited, but it's not all one way. You do have the other side of this thing, which is, first of all, what worries me is you see a lot of relief from the conservatives. They were scared of Josh Shapiro. They were scared of a Mark Kelly. They thought that would help define Kamala more to the middle. You see a lot of rejoicing on the right. That's not good. Also, you've got some disquiet in the Jewish community. Some people had their hopes up. Maybe you're going to get another shot at a Jewish vice president. We haven't had that for 2 decades, and now that gets pulled away. Is it just because he's a moderate, or is there some anti-Jewish bias here? So the party is still digesting this. I think if you're a young Muslim or a young Arab or someone who's concerned about Gaza, it gives you a reason to stay excited about Kamala, because that was going to be hard for the party to digest. So you've got a party now trying to figure out, is this good? Is this bad? What does it mean for the young people? They stay excited.
You know, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have really been trying to walk this tightrope on the whole thing with Israel. I mean, on one hand, they understand that there are a fair number of Jewish American voters who have traditionally voted Democrat, and that they want to show them that, well, we support Israel, right? And on the other hand, you've got all these young people out there marching and saying, you know, that this is wrong and that Israel is the enemy, and supportive of what's happening with Hamas, and saying that they've been heavy-handed in Gaza. Well, they didn't start it, but I mean, they had to go finish it, I think. But there have been a lot of people out there. Now, you've seen the protest in the schools and whatever. Which side was she going to come down on? She came down on the side of the kids who are out there protesting in support of Hamas. That's which side she came down on. It is an affront to Democrat Jewish voters in America. I don't know how, if you truly are a Democrat Jewish voter and you love Israel, I don't know how in the world you could vote for Kamala Harris after making this decision. Speaker Johnson said that Shapiro was overlooked for the role of Vice President Harris's running mate because of his Jewish heritage. The comments made during a wide-ranging sit-down interview with The Hill in New York City came shortly after the news broke that Harris selected Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Johnson said Shapiro, who was one of the finalists in contention, would have been a stronger choice for Harris. Okay, well, that's fine. I'm hoping she doesn't make strong choices. It makes it easier to run against her. I clearly think this was a major factor. She was reluctant to put a vice presidential nominee on the ticket with Jewish heritage because they're having a split in the Democrat Party. They have a pro-Palestinian, in some cases pro-Hamas wing of the Democrat Party. Sadly for Josh Shapiro, because of his heritage, I think that is the reason he was overlooked. Wow. 23 minutes now past the hour. Grace Point Healthcare, affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. That's really what you want, isn't it? And listen, this is the time of year where the kiddos are going back to school. Do the kids need a physical, maybe for sports or something? Grace Point provides complete physicals for kids of all ages. Scheduling an international vacation or a mission trip, or just doing some vacation travel. Grace Point offers complete travel immunizations and is CDC certified for yellow fever and all international immunization protocols. And I think this is so important because they will see you the same day, or in rare cases the next day. You just don't have to wait days or weeks to see a doctor. I mean, honestly, think about this. When you need to see your doctor, you need to see a doctor. You don't need to be told, yeah, we can get you in a couple of weeks. Hey, how does sometime next month sound? And if that's what you're getting, maybe you should think about changing over to Grace Point Healthcare. Here they are on Main Street in Franklin, 615-599-6868 to set up your appointment.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
The U.S. speaking out on yesterday's missile strike at a military base, and a man wanted for stabbing his husband at a Middle Tennessee Walmart. He's been apprehended. We'll have those stories at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, thank you, Jay Harper. Very quickly, a story that's been breaking this afternoon, and I'm afraid we don't have a tremendous amount on it, but there is a story been dropped over at Channel 5 by Phil Williams. FBI agents execute search warrant on Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles. News Channel 5 confirms. FBI agents executed a search warrant late last week on Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles as the first-term Republican faces continuing scrutiny over campaign financial reports that he filed. News Channel 5 has confirmed. Reached by telephone Tuesday, his attorney declined to comment, although he did not deny that his client had been targeted for a search by federal authorities. I'm not going to confirm or deny there was a search warrant issued, he said. Hang on, I got to turn the page. The attorney, G. Klein Preston IV, told Channel 5 Investigates in a brief conversation. Details of what areas were authorized to be searched remain murky, although individuals familiar with such investigations suggested the warrant may have been limited to Ogles' electronic devices, which may explain why I'm not getting any return on my phone call. I did put in a call. I did put in a text to Andy Ogles directly and let him know that we are open to having him on if there's anything he wants to say about that. The FBI has declined comment and has referred reporters over to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Law enforcement sources in Murray County, where Ogles' home is located, were not notified about any searches, although one source was told that the FBI had executed a search warrant somewhere in the county in recent days. Neighbors said they didn't see anything unusual. Execution of the search warrant came immediately after Ogles defeated Courtney Johnston in the Republican primary as he seeks a second term in the U.S. Congress. Department of Justice guidelines generally prohibit law enforcement from taking any overt actions in an investigation of a political candidate in the 60 days before an election. So if they were going to take action, they had to do it between the primary, almost immediately after the primary, and then go on and do something before the 60-day clock started ticking again. We're about 91 days, I think, out from the elections now. Back in May, quickly, Ogles filed a series of amended campaign financial reports admitting that he had not personally loaned his campaign $320,000 as he had reported back in 2022. We'll stay on top of it, and again, we have put the call in to Andy Ogles if he has something he'd like to say. 31 minutes now past the hour.
Good afternoon. Yes, it's 3:31. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. It's sunny and still hot. 95 degrees. A forecast and a traffic report are coming at you here in just a bit. The U.S. blaming Iran-aligned militia groups for the 7 Americans that were injured in a rocket attack on the Al-Assad air base in Iraq. The Pentagon now sending in more fighter jets and ships to the Middle East, maintaining a steady presence as the region waits for an expected Iranian retaliation after the killing of Hamas and Hezbollah leaders last week. ABC's Tom Sufi Burridge, he reports from Tel Aviv.
It is 1 week exactly since an Israeli airstrike took out a top Hezbollah commander in southern Beirut. The leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, saying a response is coming. He's threatening that very valuable Israeli factories up in northern Israel could, he boasts, be taken out within half an hour. But he's also being slightly cryptic about whether or not Hezbollah is going to act alone.
Back here in Middle Tennessee, News 2 reporting a man has been arrested at the Canadian border a week after he allegedly stabbed his husband at a Walmart in Middle Tennessee. The Gallatin Police Department says Larry Wayne Cole III was captured in Franklin County, Maine, after he was caught trying to cross the border into Canada yesterday. Cole was wanted for stabbing his husband at a Gallatin Walmart back on July 30th. The victim was taken to a local hospital, he said, to be okay. Border Patrol agents said that they immediately recognized Cole from alerts they had and quickly apprehended him. Cole currently waiting extradition back to Tennessee. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson. I am your friend and radio buddy, and we're glad to have you with us on the drive all the way till 7 o'clock. There has been in the last few minutes a statement from the office of Congressman Andy Ogles. It comes on his X post, and here it is. I will read it in its entirety. It's been widely reported for months that my campaign made mistakes in our initial financial filings. We have worked diligently with attorneys and reporting experts to correct the errors and ensure compliance going forward. Last Friday, the FBI took possession of my cell phone. It is my understanding that they are investigating the same well-known facts surrounding these filings. I will, of course, fully cooperate with them, just as I have with the Federal Election Commission. I am confident all involved will conclude that the reporting discrepancies were based on honest mistakes and nothing more. So there you have the statement from Andy Ogles on his X account just a few minutes ago, the only official response we've had to the reporting by Channel 5 that the FBI did a search late last week. It would have to have been Friday because it was after the primaries, which was Thursday, so it happened to probably be on Friday. And other details of that are not at all clear. But here you have at least a confirmation from Andy Ogles that indeed the FBI did take his cell phone and said that they are investigating the things that have been in the news of late, mostly reported by Channel 5's Phil Williams. So there we go, the very latest on that. Again, if they've got his cell phone, then I guess the text messages I sent to them went to the FBI, I guess, because I haven't heard any response. I will say this about Andy Ogles. He's always been available to us. When you call him, you get an answer. If he can't get to you, he'll send you a text and he'll call you back in a few minutes. He's been very, very accessible to me, at least. And I have his own personal cell phone number, and I use it sparingly, but I have on occasion reached out to him, and he's always been very quick to get back to me. So the fact that he did not get back to me seemed a little out of character, but now perhaps the fact that the FBI is in possession of that cell phone explains why I didn't get a text back.
You should send another text that says, "Hi, FBI," with a
Hello,
wavy
FBI.
emoji.
How are you?
See if they respond.
Right. Yeah. Is this the FBI I'm talking to? No, I don't think I'll do that. Thank you. Let's talk about some other local news. This is a story that we had a big hand in reporting, and now there's been a development in it. This show had a big hand in reporting the concerns about the Internal Affairs Department. It's not really the Internal Affairs Office of the Nashville Police. It's called the OPA, the Office of Professional Accountability. Remember, there was a guy by the name of former lieutenant from that department by the name of Garrett Davidson. He filed a 61-page complaint with the OPA describing alleged corruption within Nashville's police ranks. Davidson alleged that at least two other top officials in Metro Nashville Police Department had worked to get the legislation passed through the state legislature that did away with the Community Oversight Board, which then got reconfigured to become community review boards with much less power. And he had other things that he had to say about the management of the police department. Now comes word that Kathy Moranti, who had been director of the Office of Professional Accountability, which investigates complaints against police officers since 2013, has been removed from that office. This was first reported by the Nashville Banner. Comes more than 2 months, says the Tennessean, after a former lieutenant that I just told you about alleged in an explosive complaint that top Metro Nashville Police Department officials were doing things that were concerned to him. Commander Jason Starling, who I have had he's been very good to work with us in the past when he was doing different things at the police department, is now in charge of the OPA. He's the ranking sworn member of the OPA, overseeing the operations of the complete office. Mayor Freddie O'Connell, writes the Tennessean, said Friday he was not involved in the decision to remove Moranti from her post, but hinted at past issues of concern when asked to respond. I was not involved in that decision. I will say there had been multiple reports well before this year that seemed to be issues of concern, but I think this was something that Chief Drake decided, says Freddie O'Connell. O'Connell says he planned to talk with Drake about Morante's involvement in the cold case investigation of 3 bombings. Now, that's right. She's been moved over to a cold case department now and will be working on some old cases from the 1960s. And Monty is assisting Detective Mike Rowland in the investigations of the bombing of the Hattie Cotton Elementary School in 1957, the Jewish Community Center in 1958, and the home of civil rights and council member Z. Alexander Luby in 1960. O'Connell announced the decision to reopen the case days before a new book re-examining the crimes was published. So there. That's all happened. Davidson, as you know, retired earlier in 2024 after 11 years with the MNPD, spending the last 2 years in the OP. I talked briefly to Garrett Davidson on the phone before the show, asked him if he wanted to come on. He said he didn't really have anything to say. He said he is working with the special investigator that has been hired from the law firm Butler Snow to investigate some of the things that he is alleged about the management of the Nashville Metro Police Department. And so he says that it's moving very slowly. He thinks that internal investigation into his allegations probably will take at least another 6 months. He says the conversations that he has had about it have never gotten yet beyond item 1. So there are apparently a lot of things for them to go back and look at, and don't expect anything coming from that anytime soon. It may be one of these things where they say, we're going to investigate it, and they punt it off, and it takes years to get an answer and an interpretation of what happened, kicking it down the highway or down the road to make sure that it doesn't really get much coverage when it finally does come out. It'll be such old news at that point. Nashville Banner headline: Nashville Police Internal Affairs Chief replaced amid outside investigation. Nashville Police replaced Internal Affairs Director months after retired officer's complaint sparked an investigation, writes the Tennessee Star. So there is that. That is a story that, of course, we had a big part in telling and wanted to bring you up to date on that. In other Nashville local news, interesting, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has announced that Nashville will soon be the new home of the agency's main field office in Tennessee. As you know, it's been sort of strange. They had an office in Memphis and they had one in Knoxville, but they did not have a main office here in Nashville. So apparently they're consolidating the Memphis and Knoxville's office in the center of the state here in Nashville and bringing it all to Middle Tennessee. They will have maintain a resident agency's sort of presence in Memphis and Knoxville, but they will change all that as soon as the Nashville field office is up and running and completely operational. FBI field offices are primarily located in major cities, while its resident agencies are typically located in smaller towns and cities. Field offices are responsible for investigations, assessing crime threats, working with partners on cases, while resident agencies are part of the field offices, help provide broader regional coverage. And this story, oh my goodness. Have you heard about this? Channel 4. A Nashville postal worker has been placed in a non-duty status after being spotted in a viral TikTok allegedly dumping mail into a dumpster, according to the USPS Office of Inspector General Mid-Atlantic Area Field Office. The TikTok posted by user Ms. Denton19 shows what appears to be a United States Postal Service worker in Antioch dumping boxes of mail into a dumpster over the weekend. You gots to be smarter than this. So if y'all waiting on something important coming through the southeast region of Nashville, well, it's in my backyard dumpster, she wrote. The Inspector General's office confirmed to Channel 4 that the local Office of Inspector General is aware of the video and is investigating the matter. The postal employee's been placed on non-duty status during the course of that investigation. I mean, let me just take a side note by that. We count on our postal service to deliver our mail, right? And we don't want them dumping mail that they're too lazy to deliver. But there's another problem here, and it's a bigger problem. You know what the largest voting precinct in America is? It's the United States Postal Service, because so many places will send out ballots by mail, and mail-in balloting is a big thing in many, many, many states. And you know, who's to say, as easy as it was for allegedly this person to take the mail and dump it in a dumpster, wouldn't it be very easy for somebody who, say, if you were a postal carrier, say in a heavy Republican area, to take mail-in ballots that came across that you picked up out of boxes here, thither, and yon, to put them in one big bundle? And if you thought, well, this is a big Republican area, most of these people probably voted Republican, be ashamed if they ended up in the dumpster, wouldn't it? See, that's the problem with mail-in balloting, is that there's no ballot security surrounding that whole process. We are counting on people who work for the Postal Service, and why I don't ever want to castigate all postal workers. I certainly don't think that all postal workers are lazy or crooked or play dirty. You know, the Postal Service is reflective of life in general. There are good people and there are bad people. In every place you go, in every industry, there are good people and there are bad people. And really, honestly, we trust our postal workers to handle those things with integrity. But can politics enter into it? Yes, absolutely it can. Has it in the past? Yes, absolutely it has. So, you know, I don't know what was dumped in the dumpster. I don't know what they dumped there, but I'll tell you this. I'm a little concerned about so many ballots being handled by people that is out of the sight of anybody. And certainly these ballots are not handled with the same integrity you would at most any other polling place in the entire country. It's a real concern. 50 minutes now past the hour. Hey, a question for you. Did you know that gold is up 78% over the last 5 years and silver is up 99% in that same time period? While the U.S. dollar has lost 25% of its value since 2020. The government-induced inflation is stealing your wealth, and it doesn't seem that Washington, D.C. has any plans to stop it. Gold and other precious metals are a great shield against inflation. And lately, it's not only inflation. We've been talking about the possibility of an actual recession. Listen, during an election year, the politicians will promise you that they'll rein in their spending, but you know how it is. They just can't help themselves. That's why no matter who is in office, gold protects you from the D.C. spending sprees. Where do you get that protection? Well, please reach out to my friends Kyle and Hannah at Nashville Gold & Coin. They take good care of you just like they took good care of me. They will keep you well informed on all precious metal opportunities. So act now and get your shield against out-of-control government spending. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com and set up your appointment today.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
President Biden working the phones in an effort to reduce tensions in the Middle East. The White House now responding to yesterday's Wall Street sell-off, and another attempt on the life of former President Trump has been thwarted. We'll have those stories at 4 p.m. on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, yesterday, not a very good day on the markets. I mean, the Dow was down over 1,000 points. It was a pretty rare occurrence. And all the major indices were deeply, deeply, deeply impacted after there were concerns that we might be headed for a recession. Today, the Dow came back a little bit, up 294 points after losing 1,000 yesterday. S&P is up 53. That's about 1%. NASDAQ is up a little over 1%, gaining 166 points. What's going on with all this? Let's check in with Ty Draper over at Beacon Capital Management. Good afternoon, Ty.
Hey, Brian. It was turnaround Tuesday as all the major indexes closed about 1% up after yesterday's dramatic sell-off. And helping the domestic market today was a strong rebound in the Japanese Nikkei, which lost over 12% yesterday. Now, historically speaking, August and September are the worst months for the year, with trading negative returns all the way back to 1929. You couple that with the last 3 weeks of trading, and this market volatility has investors more and more wary as we inch closer to the election.
All right. Thank you very much, Ty. Listen, find out about all the things that Ty and John Maxon and all the good people over at Beacon Capital Management, what they can do to help you get ready for your retirement. Just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Good afternoon. It is 1 minute past 4 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Sunny and 95 degrees. A complete forecast and another traffic report are upcoming. President Biden spending a second day on the phone today with the leaders in the Middle East amid fears that Iran is preparing to attack Israel. ABC's Ann Flaherty has more.
With concerns growing that Iran will launch a retaliatory attack against Israel, Biden is calling on leaders in the region to help dial back tensions. According to the White House, Biden spoke Tuesday with the Emir of Qatar as well as Egypt's president after talking to King Abdullah in Jordan a day before. A White House spokesman said Biden wanted to discuss ways to, quote, de-escalate regional tension and to bring the ceasefire and hostage rescue deal to a conclusion.
The White House today also responding to the Wall Street sell-off yesterday. At today's White House briefing, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said the administration is monitoring the global economy and that the Monday's drop in the markets they don't think is a sign of a coming recession.
While we've seen some volatility, we admit that, we have seen that, our broader economy remains resilient.
And the FBI now saying that they have stopped another attempt to assassinate former President Trump. ABC's Andy Field, he has details from D.C.
The government arresting a Pakistani national with claimed ties to Iran on charges he plotted to kill former President Trump. Court documents claim Asif Merchant flew from Pakistan to the U.S. to hire killers. The government caught him because one of the people he contacted was an FBI informant. Investigators say they found no connection between this plot and the man who tried to kill Donald Trump in Pennsylvania last month.
And finally, the season comes to an end for the Goodlettsville All-Stars Little League team today. They were the Tennessee state champions in the regional down in Warner Robins, Georgia today. In the finals, they lost to the Florida State champs. But again, congratulations to the boys, Coach Spain, and all of the young men and their families. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Good afternoon. Hour number 2 of the drive now underway. 7 minutes past the hour. Hope you're doing all right out there. It's 93 degrees and not too bad out there. Well, we got a lot of stuff to cover. If you are just getting into your car and somehow have not been able to check your phone or don't know what's going on, Kamala Harris has chosen her running mate. It is a guy named Walz, W-A-L-Z. Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. Everybody goes, who? I covered him when he was, I guess he was a member of the House when I was there. I don't think I recall anything about Tim Walz at all. Don't think his name ever came up. Don't remember him being somebody that, came into a press conference and made a statement. Don't remember anything at all. Completely unmemorable. But and when you start digging into his background, you find a lot of things. We'll get into that in just a moment. Time for our 2024 update. Well, don't you hate it when that does that? I just hate it when that happens. Let's do this. Here it is. Time for our 2020. The crowd couldn't wait.
They're excited.
They were excited for the 2024 update. The two buttons are right next to each other. That's the problem. All right, here's the thing I'd like to say. I mean, we talk about Joe Biden and, he's a lame duck. He's an angry lame duck because they found a way to go around him and made him step down. And so, he's the duck. I think if you're going to have a bird sound for Kamala Harris, it would be she's the great American Democrat chicken. Yep, that's an angry chicken, too. Why are all our birds so dadgum angry? I don't know. Kamala Harris is running from the press, and she's not held a press conference since emerging as the presumptive Democrat nominee. Vice President Kamala's gone 16 days now without holding a formal press conference. He became essentially the de facto nominee. In fact, there's a piece of news that crossed today. She's officially now the Democrat nominee. I'm glad that's over. And she's afraid. She's chicken. She won't come out. She won't answer questions. She only puts herself in a position where she is reading off the teleprompter. Nothing is ad lib. Nothing is she doesn't wing it on anything. The rare moments that she's put herself before her traveling press corps, it has been to make a 15-second statement that's been vetted by the campaign, and then she runs away. She runs away and gets back on the plane before anybody can ask her any questions. So, it's sort of irritating that she's become the Democrat nominee. She's out there, but she won't talk to reporters. She won't ask her any questions. She never puts herself in a place where she is unscripted. So, again, that is that's pretty sad that we have a Democrat vice presidential running. Say what you will about Donald Trump, say what you will about J.D. Vance. They get out there. They get out there and they mix it up. They take questions. And we should demand the same of Kamala Harris. Okay, so here it is. Vice President Kamala Harris names Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. The naming of the 60-year-old Walz was not a shocker. His name was instantly thought to be in contention in the 2 weeks since Harris succeeded President Biden as the party's standard bearer. Walz, a former congressman in his second term as governor of Minnesota, a state that the Democrats have reliably won in presidential elections for decades, but that the Trump campaign has aimed at flipping this cycle. I don't understand, realistically, Democrats have a pretty good chance of carrying Minnesota. So what is their hope? That he'll do well in Michigan? I never have bought into, he's right next door. He's a governor right next door to Michigan. And so you would think that maybe he would do well in Michigan. Why? They don't know much about him either. Grew up in small town in Nebraska. His father died of cancer when he was 19. Family relied on Social Security survivor benefits to make ends meet. At 17, he enlisted in the National Guard, serving for 24 years. He used his GI Bill benefits to go to college, became a teacher, served as both the football coach and advisor of the Gay Straight Alliance. Harris said she wanted to share his background because it means it's impressive on its own right because you see in no uncertain terms how it informs his record. He is incredibly liberal. CNN writes, this is interesting, the math behind why Harris picked Walz and why she may regret it. Isn't that an interesting headline? Yeah, by the way, when I say CNN, you shouldn't instantly, why are you telling me about something that CNN's reporting? CNN print is different than CNN on the air. Their web product is a lot more balanced, I've found. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz hasn't been in the top tier of potential running mates for Kamala Harris until the last few weeks, but his selection to join the vice president on the Democrat ticket underscores both the power of social media and of being relatively affable. He's affable and non-divisive. So what took Walz from, nationally speaking, a relatively unknown to a major party vice president nominee? You might call the entire thing weird. Recall how Democrats started calling Republican Donald Trump and J.D. Vance weird a few weeks ago? That attack might have felt like something out of high school, but the crazy thing is it seemed to have worked, and he was the guy that came up with that. Why Walz has been credited as one of the first to have started calling Republicans weird in a large-scale way? The fact that Harris elected a candidate who does well online shouldn't be surprising. This is the campaign that's embraced coconut tree and brat. Harris has done very well on TikTok, which is something Joe Biden's campaign couldn't do. But is the Walz pick indicative of a campaign that is too online? Fair question. Given that Harris skipped over Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro in favor of Walz. Shapiro had been seen as a wrong front runner, divided a lot on the online left over his perceived views on the Israelis and the Palestinians, given that he is Jewish. Walz shares many of the same views on the issue, but received far less backlash than Shapiro, who is actually Jewish. The fact that Walz faced virtually no opposition from any major Democrat Party faction almost certainly helped him. So, I mean, sometimes it's the guy who's least offensive who gets it. But, I mean, if you're a Jewish Democrat voter in America, and you've got to wonder why they went away from, I mean, they need Pennsylvania more than they need to worry about Minnesota. Pennsylvania is actually up for grabs. Minnesota likely not. Not since Harris became the nominee. So, why not go for Shapiro? Well, because he is Jewish, and there's a great number of people out there who think that he would side with Israel, which he would, and there are a great number of people out there in the Democrat Party who side with Hamas and the Palestinians. And it was not going to work well for him, so he was not a good choice. The selection is not without risk. Minnesota is likely not going to be competitive this fall. See, I just told you. No Republican nominee for president has carried the state since '72. It's Democrats' longest presidential winning streak outside of Washington, D.C. Pennsylvania, on the other hand, is almost certainly a must-win state for Harris if she wants to be president. In fact, it's probably the most important swing state this cycle. I agree. The polling there has been very tight. Shapiro currently holds a 61% favorable rating in Pennsylvania because they don't know anything about him, just like they don't know anything about Kamala. We have to do a better job of telling that story. She has the mo. I hate to tell you this, but it's true. Harris is up 4 points against Trump in a new national poll. This is the Morning Consult polling data released on Tuesday. They have her up by Harris leads Trump by 5 points among independents, among 9 points among 18 to 34 years old, and which are both record high margins for her among this key swing group of swing voters. By comparison, President Biden only bettered Harris is showing among independents. So, I mean, if she's doing okay, she's up over Trump by 5 points with independents. That's of concern because, she's going to get the Democrats. We're going to get the Republicans. The battle is over who gets the independents, and she seems to be leading. I mean, now, look, if we get back on message and if we can seriously get out there and talk about Kamala Harris and her positions and what she will do to America and what Kamala Harris's administration will look like alongside Tim Walz, who's just as liberal, if not more than she is, I think we'll do very well, but we've got to get that message out. We absolutely have to get that message out. Here's a story of just about that. Inflation, immigration, insanity. Harris has weak points if the GOP can stay on message. Former President Trump and his campaign spent much of last week addressing Vice President Kamala Harris's racial background, but industry analysts and polling data suggest they may be missing the mark and ought to focus on three key issues: inflation, immigration, and insanity, as some have named the keynote progressive issues Harris has supported. Harris's status as vice president closely links her with the policies and records of the Biden administration, which is currently facing low polling on all of the critical issues. Currently, data shows President Joe Biden with a 34.5% approval rating on inflation, 62.5% disapprove of his handling of the issue. On immigration, Biden earns a 33.2% approval rating, 62.8% disapprove of the same. The Trump camp did make some initial efforts to tie her to the Biden administration's record, such as an early campaign ad that depicts her as the driving force behind White House keynote policies. Look at what she's done, they said. Invasion of the border, runaway inflation, the American dream dead. That was the right message. But the campaign got off message. If there's only anybody who had been here on the radio to tell you that this was a problem. If only someone had the brave ability to tell you that they were messing up on their message. Trump somewhat returned to form this week. That's the thing. But you know what? They're still talking about the stuff from last week. Message. We got to get on message. Look, this other stuff will fade, but we got to get on message. We've got to get serious about it. You may agree with everything that Trump said, but I just want to remind you, you're not the concern right now. You're not the thing that we need to be worried about. You're on the Trump train, just like I am. You're in the tent. You're not the issue. You're going to vote for Trump, right? What needs to be done is going out there and battling for those people, those independent voters who have not yet made up their mind. Sometimes they go left, sometimes they go right, and we've got to go out there and convince them that Kamala Harris's America will be disastrous for them. They're going to be higher taxes. They're going to take away your health care. There's a whole litany of things that are great campaign issues if only we could just talk about them. Just saying. Not that I'm bitter or upset. I am upset about this because this is rookie mistake we're making campaign-wise. We need to get on message, and we need to get on message quick, and then we need to stay there. J.D. Vance today was on message, and I hope that indeed we can get our act together on our side of the equation and talk about the issues that matter. A little less of the name calling, a little bit more pointing out exactly what she stands for and what Kamala Harris's America will look like. If you just tell that story, we'll be fine. 20 minutes now past the hour. Are your retirement assets structured to minimize taxes? May be hard to believe, but many hardworking Americans just like you could be overpaying on taxes in retirement. See, you can be taxed on your IRA, your 401k, and any other tax-deferred retirement accounts. Beacon Capital Management is here to give you peace of mind. With the threat of massive tax increases just around the corner, your nest egg could be in trouble unless you take advantage of defensive tax-saving strategies now. Defend your hard-earned retirement savings by scheduling a free retirement tax reduction analysis today. No cost, no pressure, no obligation. If you've saved more than $250,000 for retirement, don't wait any longer. Schedule your free retirement tax reduction analysis from Beacon. Call this number, 615-488-9303, or just visit askbeaconnow.com for more information.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Boeing announcing a design change to their 737 MAX aircraft. It has to do with doors falling off. Yeah, that sounds good. And we'll also have today's closing money news. That's coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, here's a little professional tip for Boeing. We don't want the doors to fall off. We would prefer that the doors stay on.
At least while it's in air.
At least in the air.
Yes.
If they're going to fall off, wait till they're on the ground.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that.
I think we can all agree on that. Poor Boeing, man. They got problems. Their aircraft, they got all these issues with the. I used to think that I never thought twice about getting on a Boeing 737. The original Boeing 737s had a tremendous safety record. Tremendous. I mean, they were the single most safe aircraft in the air. But then these variants started to come along, the 730 stretched versions and all the different special variants of the 737. And apparently they got sloppy some stuff, and it's a real concern. Then they got a spacecraft that went to the International Space Station. It was a test of the Boeing capsule. It was supposed to be there 10 days. I think it's now 60-some days. It's been there. Our poor astronaut from Mount Juliet is stranded on the International Space Station because they can't get their capsule to work. They've got problems with thrusters.
At least it wasn't doors.
Yeah, at least the doors stayed on the capsule, because that would be really bad in space. No, and so apparently the real question about Boeing is, will they have to? This would be priceless. Elon Musk, you think he wouldn't love this?
Oh yeah.
They've got a SpaceX capsule there. And the question is, are they going to bring these two astronauts who've been stranded on the International Space Station for more than 60 days after what was supposed to be a 10-day visit just to test the capsule and then fly back? If they had to use the SpaceX capsule to bring them back? Elon, yeah, hey, don't worry, Boeing. I got this. We'll get them back safely. Don't worry.
Do you want me to tow your capsule back when I come?
Elon Musk sends a tow truck to bring back the Boeing capsule. I don't know, but there's that is by the way a very real possibility. What a thing. Okay, I need to get this squeezed in very quickly. There are whistleblowers out there who are talking to Senator Josh Hawley about the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. And he lays it out this way on Fox News that the person who was running the whole thing, apparently there were real concerns about her.
This individual, the site agent, the lead agent, was known to the Trump campaign to be inexperienced, to be ineffectual, to be frankly incompetent at their job. Well, I'm also told by whistleblowers that on that day, she was not enforcing the normal security protocols. She was not checking people's IDs. She did not use Secret Service agents. Most of the agents there that day were not Secret Service agents. They were Homeland Security agents. And get this, most of them had never worked a rally before. And she didn't train them or integrate them from top to bottom. It is a miracle, not only that Trump is alive, but that more good Americans were not killed. It's unbelievable. IDs were not checked to allow individuals into secure areas. In other words, it was a total free-for-all. Whistleblowers portray to me a situation that was totally out of control, where people were milling around, including in what were supposed to be highly secure areas. Nobody knew who they were. By the way, it was also the lead site agent's job to make sure that the line of sight for where Trump was clear, that agents could see all angles. And she didn't do that. In fact, I'm told that the line of sight was obstructed, which means that agents from different angles couldn't really see around Trump, couldn't see potential dangers to Trump. This is pretty textbook stuff. What whistleblowers say to me is none of it was done properly. None of it was done by the book. And frankly, when you know all that, it's amazing more people weren't killed. This person needs to be fired, as does anybody who had leadership on that day. Whistleblowers are coming forward from the Secret Service because they can't believe what leadership is doing. They cannot believe that the Secret Service is not taking action to clear out the rot, frankly. They're scared to death this is going to happen again. This individual was inexperienced, that she was known to the campaign to be, frankly, not very good at her job. They had concerns about this individual before the Butler rally. Again, when she was assigned to Butler, the campaign was worried. They thought, uh-oh, this has not gone well before, and my gosh, it didn't go well that day.
That is shocking. If the whistleblower is giving Senator Josh Hawley straight information, very, very concerning. From the Washington Times, Americans aren't buying the official version of the Trump shooting, poll shows. Americans are deeply skeptical of the official storyline of the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, with a new poll showing that just a third of them believed the gunman was acting alone and there was no broader conspiracy. Just a third believed that. The Tip Daily Mail poll found that 45% of those surveyed believe in the larger conspiracy. Another 22% are unsure about what to think. More than a quarter of people believe there is a second shooter involved. It goes on. The FBI, which is conducting the official investigation into the shooting, has vehemently denied the second shooter story, said there's no evidence yet to suggest the 20-year-old man who took 8 shots at the former president was anything other than a loner. But those assurances ring hollow to a massive number of people, with Republicans more skeptical of the official line than Democrats. Among Democrats, one prolific theory is that Mr. Trump staged the shooting himself and managed to have himself grazed by a bullet, allowed one rally-goer to be killed, 2 others to be seriously wounded, and found a 20-year-old willing to take the fall and be killed by counter-snipers in the process. They actually believe that, the Democrats. Some of them do. Another liberal theory holds that Mr. Trump wasn't actually hit by a bullet, that he cut himself to create the bloody ear that has become part of the iconographic moment. Among the conservatives, meanwhile, the fact that a shooter was allowed to climb a building to a rooftop with line of sight of Mr. Trump and get off 8 shots fuels theories about a conspiracy to leave the Republican presidential nominee unprotected. You know, it is hard to believe because, I mean, really it's hard to believe this 20-year-old loser was able to, beat the Secret Service. But then you hear Josh Hawley talking about how incredibly incompetent was the person in charge, and it seems to back up the theory that they just were not looking in the right places and didn't have a good plan. Another theory holds, in addition to the 20-year-old on top of the rooftop, there was a second shooter on a water tower. So, I mean, all those theories are out there, but, I mean, when you add them all up together, it seems that a lot of Americans are just not buying the official story. Many of them listen to this program, and we've talked about that in days past, that I don't think that there is a second shooter. I think this is, as Josh Hawley is beginning to play out here, I think this is nothing more than incompetence, writ large. Horrible, horrible incompetence. Time for the news, 4:30.
Good afternoon, 32 minutes past 4 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Sunshine, 96 steamy degrees. A complete forecast and another traffic report are just moments away. As the National Transportation Safety Board held hearings today on the Alaska Air jet door that blew off in flight, Boeing is announcing changes to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Boeing is redesigning safety features to help prevent another mid-air cabin panel blowout that forced an emergency landing of one of its 737 MAX flights last winter. Boeing saying it hopes to retrofit its entire MAX 9 fleet with the safer door plug panels. Investigators found 4 missing bolts when one of them broke free and caused a rapid Alaska Air flight decompression.
That mid-air door plug failure grounded all 737 MAX flights for several weeks and also sparked a criminal investigation. That was Andy Field reporting. We now turn to today's money news. Things looking a little better today. Here's Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. What goes down eventually comes up, and that's what happened to stocks after the free fall on Monday. The Dow soared about 700 points to close up 294, up about 0.75%. The S&P added 54 points for its best day. Since the end of 2023, it was up 1%, and the Nasdaq rose 167 points, up over 1%. Calm is returning to Wall Street after a nerve-wracking start to the week, and not just for the markets here, but for around the world. It was the worst day since 1987. Japan's Nikkei also clawed back much of its losses. Strong earnings from Uber and other companies helped things along. Most stocks closed higher. That was the mirror opposite of Monday, when most called it a session in the red. Analysts say we could be in a volatile period, so what's the average investor to do? Most experts say do nothing. Wait it out.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the folks over at Restoration Wellness and Med Spa in Lebanon. They are the weight loss management leader in Wilson County. Listen, you should call them today at 615-470-8124. That's 615-470-8124. Or visit them on their website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com, to book a consultation today. Now, you're going to come in contact with my friends Carly and Jamie, who will take great care of you, treat you like you're part of the family. They certainly have with me. You can become a part of the 1,000 patients who've already seen life-changing results from the weight loss management program. I'm down 25 pounds each and every day when I get on the old scale. I'm getting good news. Wouldn't you like to have that? It's so easy. And by the way, I'm not hungry. Weight loss can increase your energy levels, improve your quality of sleep, and enhance your overall health. customized treatments, not one size fits all. Restoration Wellness considers your unique needs, lifestyles, and goals. So whether your goal is to lose stubborn body fat or improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness has a solution for you. Learn about the newest technology in weight loss management. Just go to their website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Well, let's head on down to the swamp, shall we? You know, you got to keep an eye on what's happening there in the swamp, because it's a murky, kind of nasty, slimy place is what it is. The Secret Service got intel on the high potential for violence on January 6th, but didn't bother to tell their agents that. Homeland Inspector General report urged changes to the Secret Service training communication 3 months before the July 13th Trump assassination attempt exposed additional flaws. Yeah, the Secret Service has its own intelligence division. Secret Service developed intelligence that there was a high potential for violence before the January 6th Capitol riot, but failed to share that information with its agents guarding Donald Trump, Mike Pence, or Kamala Harris that fateful day, according to a bombshell report delivered to Congress on Thursday that exposed a fresh round of failures by the Presidential Protection Agency. This comes from Homeland Security Inspector General Joseph Kafari's report. It was forced into the public by pressure from the House Administration Oversight Subcommittee. Otherwise, we'd not know about all this. It was confirmed earlier reporting by Just the News, including that the Secret Service whisked Harris, then the vice president-elect, within 20 feet of an undetected pipe bomb at the Democrat National Committee headquarters in Washington on that day because it failed to employ its normal explosive detection tools. Secret Service had not employed all its explosive detection tactics and measures for the security sweep, instead providing only a K-9 team at the DNC building that day. Afterwards, the Secret Service did not report the building's evacuation as an unusual protective event as required by policies. They go on and on and on. But, I mean, here's the thing. The big thing that you should draw from this is the Inspector General found Secret Service shortcomings on January 6th. Serious problems that the Secret Service did not do well on that particular day. And actually talked about communication process and siloing of information and all of the things that are now becoming part of the story that we are learning about what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. They didn't communicate well with others. They didn't do good site planning. They didn't do their due diligence. So there was apparently flares were sent up. This report was buried in a way that nobody could find it. But now that we've had this incident in Butler, Pennsylvania, and thanks to the use, the hard work of some congressional leaders up on Capitol Hill, Republicans, we're getting this information that people have been raising concerns about the Secret Service for some time now. 76% of your income taxes that you send to the swamp are now going toward interest on the national debt. Think about that for a while. When it comes to the money the government is siphoning off through income taxes, most of it is literally going up in smoke. The most recent Treasury data showed that as the federal government surpasses a record $35 trillion national debt, $1.1 trillion will be spent on interest payments alone this fiscal year. According to reports, interest payments on the federal debt now account for 76% of all personal income taxes collected. That means for every dollar Americans pay in income tax, about 76 cents is going toward paying interest on the national debt. Roughly 45%, or nearly half of the federal government's revenue, is from personal income taxes. So you can see the trouble that we're in. And I got to ask you, who do you have the greater confidence in to solve this problem? Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? They've never seen a tax and spend program that they didn't like. Those Democrats. It's got to get enough. It's going to get to the point where we don't even bring enough income to cover the interest payments on the debt. Now, if you and I have that problem, it's called bankruptcy. The federal government has that problem. They don't have a name for it. They just keep on spending. Keep on printing and spending, printing and spending, printing and spending. That's what they do. And we are about to get to the point. I mean, at what point, what do you do when no matter how much money you send them, it's not enough to even cover the interest payments on the debt? Wow. Biden screwed up America's finances so badly that the federal government's annual interest expense under Trump was closer to zero than it is to Biden's. And they're spending a ton of money that we don't have on the Green New Deal. From the Federalist, here are the green projects Biden is dumping billions of tax dollars into before he leaves office. Some of this stuff is just, it's ridiculous. Decarbonization and its consequences. That's what they call it. We want to do everything to not burn any carbon fuels. Among the projects receiving the federal largesse are statewide decarbonization initiatives in Pennsylvania, targeting cement, asphalt, and other materials. $307 million for measures in Nebraska to promote climate-smart practices, ostensibly to reduce emissions from agriculture waste, and an effort to install EV chargers. An air management district in Southern California will receive $500 million to help decarbonize the region's transportation and freight sectors, including ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. EPA grants to the region will provide funding for electric charging equipment, zero-emission freight vehicles, and conversion of cargo handling equipment to lower emissions. Then there are, I love this story, because this is where my daughter went to school. Then there are the electric school buses and affluent Montgomery County, Maryland, just north of Washington, D.C., an electric bus company that was supposed to deliver hundreds of vehicles to the largest school district in the state, repeatedly missed delivery deadlines and made late repairs to its school buses, which caused millions of dollars in wasteful spending, the Washington Post reported last week. Some of the electric buses were delivered, had to have their batteries replaced, or were plagued by high-voltage wiring problems. not something you want on a bus that's carrying children, right? Citing a report by the Montgomery County Inspector General, the Post reported that the school district is now shelling out upwards of $14 million to buy, wait for it, diesel-powered buses, thanks to its vehicle deficit. In other words, instead of decarbonizing its school bus fleet, Montgomery County is now recarbonizing. They tried electric, and it didn't go so well for them. They were losing money. The school buses were not reliable. The buses didn't stay charged. They got all kinds of problems. Montgomery County's electric school bus fiasco is rooted in the same fund or mandate it, and they will come mentality underpinning the handouts in the Inflation Reduction Act. In 2022, Maryland lawmakers passed a law aimed at reducing greenhouse gases, including boosting the number of EVs in the state. The law also requires new school buses to run exclusively on electric power, though some waivers are allowed. But they know better, right? You know what? It's just a disaster. And they're spending, again, I think the bigger picture here is these are ideas that they think we must do this, or we're going to lose the planet, right? We're going to lose the planet. Well, they don't work. And they time and time again, we find that the projects, the Green New Deal projects that have been laid out there, have all kinds of real life problems. And more often than not, you end up losing a lot of money that we don't have in order to go after these pie in the sky ideas. It's not good. More than 50 lawmakers in 21 states and the Department of Justice now involved in the battle against TikTok. A bipartisan group of over 50 lawmakers in more than 20 states submitted a support to the Department of Justice efforts to enforce a law mandating that China-based ByteDance divest its U.S. TikTok assets or face a ban. The ban is currently not in force, allowing a court challenge by TikTok. But there's a lot of people who would think that we need to get rid of TikTok because it is a national security concern. It is also a consumer privacy concern. And your information on your child's computer, if they're on TikTok, is sitting on a server in mainland China. They know about you. They know about your family. They know about your child. And the federal government has said time and time again that this is a data gathering system that is gathering data on Americans by the boatload, that is masquerading as some, sort of harmless social media platform. But I'll promise you that nothing will be done about TikTok until the elections are over, because Kamala is out there selling her campaign on TikTok. So don't expect any big changes. Not anytime soon. And that's your Swamp Report, 50 minutes now past the hour.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
The FBI thwarting another attempt on Donald Trump's life. Kamala Harris and her newly minted running mate, Minnesota Governor Walz, they're appearing together today for the very first time. And Tropical Storm Debbie, she's not done with her destruction just yet. We'll have those stories at 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'd like to thank you, Jay Harper, for bringing us all that. He'll have the news here in just a little bit. I'm watching the feed out of Philadelphia where Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are expected to make their first joint campaign appearance. And they're way late. Apparently, I mean, there's a lot of vamping going on. They even brought out Governor Shapiro to speak to the audience to keep them entertained for a few moments. He was mentioned as somebody who might be one of the running mates. Might be a running mate for Kamala Harris. Turned out it's Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, don't you know? And so I've always wondered this one thing, though. They've got a gigantic sign that says Harris-Walz. When did that get printed up? I mean,
that's a good question. It would take some time to do that.
It takes some time to do that. And if you made the announcement this morning, at what time did the printer have to get up to have these banners ready out there? But if they get there, if they ever get to Philadelphia, we'll maybe dip in to hear a little bit of what Tim Walz is all about. So far, we're not too impressed, and I'll have all the reporting on the things that are being said about Governor Walz. And there are some really interesting stuff in his background. It's all coming up in the next hour, right here on Super Talk 99.7. 58 minutes past the hour.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Good afternoon. It's 5 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Sunny and hot. We've been hovering around 95, 96 degrees all day today. We're at 95 currently. We'll get you a forecast and a traffic report here in just a bit. The FBI says it has stopped another attempt to assassinate former President Trump. ABC's Andy Field has details from Washington.
The government arresting a Pakistani national with claimed ties to Iran on charges he plotted to kill former President Trump. Court documents claim Asif Merchant flew from Pakistan to the U.S. to hire killers. The government caught him because one of the people he contacted was an FBI informant. Investigators say they found no connection between this plot and the man who tried to kill Donald Trump in Pennsylvania last month.
Now let's get to election 24 news. As Vice President Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz make their campaign debut tonight in Philly, ABC's political director Rick Klein, he breaks down the matchup between Governor Walz and his vice presidential contender, Senator J.D. Vance.
They're both from relatively humble upbringings. They both grew up in relatively rural circumstances, in relative poverty, and they both served in the military and were defined by that time in the military. That's something that neither Vice President Harris nor former President Trump are able to talk about. In fact, it's been a while since you had someone at the high ranks of government who served in the military in a major capacity. That's an interesting kind of contrast.
Wicked weather still remains in the southeast as several possible tornadoes have been reported in South Carolina as Tropical Storm Debbie makes its way north along the East Coast. The state is bracing for possible historic rainfall and dangerous flash flooding. At a briefing on the state storm response today, Governor Henry McMaster in South Carolina said so far the state has not had any storm deaths, but warned the storm's slow track still poses quite a danger.
What we have happening is this storm is coming up. It's moving very slowly. It's got a lot of rain in it, and it is going out over the ocean and gathering some strength and coming back in.
And finally, the season comes to an end for the Goodlettsville All-Stars Little League team today. The Tennessee State champs losing to the Florida State team in the championship game of the Southeast Little League Regional Tournament in Warner Robins, Georgia. But it was a great season for the boys, so congratulations to Coach Spain and all of the players as they represented the Volunteer State proudly. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, it's 6 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson. Welcome to hour number 3 of The Drive on this 6th day of August. It is a day where Kamala Harris has made her first executive level decision. She's decided who's going to be her running mate, and it's underwhelming is what it is. This is the first campaign appearance in Philadelphia right now. It just started a few moments ago. They were very, very late getting there. I don't know what the hang-up was, but the selection is Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. And you go, well, who? Well, you would be like 71% of Americans who apparently told pollsters they don't even know the name. Who is Tim Walz? He's the governor of Minnesota, which is a reliably blue state. Why you would choose a governor from a reliably blue state when you really need to win a state like purple Pennsylvania, I don't know. Kamala Harris is reading the teleprompter because she doesn't do anything unscripted. And she's there. Let's just listen a bit. And when Walz starts to speak, we'll take a little of it, just see what the guy sounds like.
The day that I announced my candidacy, I set out to find a partner who can help build this brighter future. A leader who will help unite our nation and move us forward. A fighter for the middle class. A patriot who believes, as I do, in the extraordinary promise of America. A promise of freedom, opportunity, and justice, not just for some, but for all.
Well, we can sit and listen to this for a while, or I could just tell you some things about Governor Walz that you may find interesting. There are a lot of controversies surrounding the guy. You have to, some of them go back a few years. He is 60, a veteran politician, served in Congress from 2007 until 2019. I must tell you that I was in Washington during those times. I covered Congress during part of that time. I have virtually no memory of him whatsoever. So there is that. He is very progressive, and progressives are very excited about this. This was a feel-good pick for Kamala Harris, but it wasn't a very good political pick. I got to tell you, I just don't think it was the right thing. There are some things in his background that are, I'll just lay them out here. You decide. Go back to 1995. Walz in past campaigns has sought to downplay his arrest for drunken driving in the mid-'90s, but questions about the run-in with law enforcement continued to dog him. A 2022 report by Alpha News unearthed court records that cast doubt on the version that he had been telling on the campaign trail for some time. It was September 23rd, 1995. Walz was working as a teacher in his home state of Nebraska. He pulled over for doing, you ready this? 96 and a 55. I mean, there's breaking the speed limit and there's breaking the speed limit. 96 and a 55. He has always said that he was not drunk and blamed the misunderstanding with police on his deafness, which the governor's then campaign manager said has since been surgically corrected. But the state trooper's report tells a different story. Strong odor of alcoholic beverage detected emitting from Mr. Walz's breath in person. The trooper indicated that Walz submitted to and failed both a field sobriety test and a preliminary breath test. He was taken to Chadron Hospital for blood tests before being booked in the Dawes County Jail. Initially charged with driving under the influence and speeding, but he pled guilty to a single count of reckless driving at the end of the day. There are questions about how he handled, as governor, the Minneapolis riots after the 2020 killing of George Floyd. He's been a disaster for Minnesota and is by far the most partisan governor I can remember having, says Minnesota GOP Chairman David Hahn. Going back to 2020, certainly he did nothing to try to stop the riots going on in Minneapolis. I think he was fearful of alienating his progressive base who were supporting the riots. And this was a time when Kamala Harris was raising money for the rioters. This is something that J.D. Vance, well, he started out talking about other stuff, but he eventually got around to that part.
My view on it is it just highlights how radical Kamala Harris is. This is a person who listened to the Hamas wing of her own party and selecting a nominee. This is a guy who's proposed shipping more manufacturing jobs to China, who wants to make the American people more reliant on garbage energy instead of good American energy, and has proposed defunding the police just as Kamala Harris does. I think it's interesting, actually. They make an interesting tag team because, of course, Tim Walz allowed rioters to burn down Minneapolis in the summer of 2020, and then the few who got caught, Kamala Harris helped bail them out of jail. So it is more instructive for what it says about Kamala Harris, that she doesn't care about the border, she doesn't care about crime, she doesn't care about American energy, and most importantly, she doesn't care about the Americans who have been made to suffer under those policies.
J.D. Vance on message. That's the way it's supposed to be done right there. Hahn similarly said Walz waited for days, 3 days, before he could bring himself to call in the National Guard. He pointed to the defund police movement's roots in Minneapolis and Minnesota, following Floyd's murder and subsequent rioting in the Twin Cities. Oh, let's see what else. COVID lockdowns. Oh, this is a good one. And his first term as governor, Walz oversaw Minnesota's response to the COVID pandemic. He was heavy-handed. He had all kinds of restrictions, including lockdowns and mask mandates. He set up a hotline for residents to snitch on each other. That's right. It sounded a little something like this.
He talks about this wall.
Oh, here it sounds like a little bit like, where did I have it? I know I have it. The snitch line. Snitch line. Sorry. It is coming. The snitch line sounded a little bit like this.
Hello, you have reached the Department of Public Safety stay-at-home hotline. The information you leave is considered public information. At the tone, please leave the following information: your name, your callback number, how the stay-at-home order is being violated, and where the stay-at-home order was violated. Thank you.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
So if you called into that line and left it, you could say, hey, my neighbors are on their front porch and they don't have their masks on, and I feel triggered by that. Then they would send somebody out to deal with it. That's the kind of stuff that was going. How are they violating? You're supposed to be staying at home. Somebody's violating the stay-at-home order. Man, if I lived in Minneapolis at the time, you say, damn straight I'm violating the stay-at-home order. I'm going to do what I need to do, and you deal with it. But, I mean, apparently this is what it was. They actually turned Minnesotans, don't you know, against one another over the pandemic. There were complaints over Walz's pandemic-era restrictions. He charged 70 people with defrauding. Federal prosecutors charged 70 people with defrauding federal food programs that were funded for kids during the pandemic. The money was abused. There was interference on a police shooting case that created a great deal of controversy there. And so there's some of that stuff. A lot of liberals, a great number of liberal media figures have raised real concerns about this pick. Professor and podcaster Damon Linker, who I have never heard of before, but I agree with this, rather than pick the very popular governor of a neck-and-neck must-win purple state, referring there to Pennsylvania, Harris chose a dime-a-dozen blue state governor who gives feels to progressives. That's about what I would have expected from her a month ago. Arthur Matt Lewis declared it wasn't a bad pick for Kamala, but feels Walz will do little to appeal to anti-Trump conservatives. If you were a never-Trump conservative who was hoping to rationalize a vote for the Democrat ticket, it just got harder, he wrote. Chris Cillizza, former CNN pundit, said, such a weird choice. MSNBC's Brendan Buck said, feels very 2019. So, I mean, listen, I mean, honestly, it's a great question. Why did she pick this guy over, let's say, Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, a state that she desperately needs to win, where Trump is still barely, leading at the moment, but still leading? Minnesota has not elected a Republican ever. I mean, it's been like, I don't know, nobody can remember the last time a Republican presidential candidate did well. in Minnesota. It's been a reliably blue state. Why not go for Shapiro? I'll tell you why. Because he's Jewish, and they didn't want that backlash, because there are a lot of people out there in the Democrat Party who would have looked at that and said, well, that's an affront to what I believe, because I believe in supporting the Palestinians, I believe in supporting Hamas, and now you've gone and flaunted this Jewish running mate in my face, and we know how he feels about supporting Israel, and it wouldn't have gone well for Democrats because they're trying to walk that tightrope. The truth of the matter is, apparently, Tim Walz has very similar feelings to Governor Shapiro, but it's not well known, and he's not Jewish. So was there a little anti-Semitism at play here? People are asking the question. And by the way, she still hasn't introduced him. Let's check in.
And he cast one of the critical votes.
So she's still talking. Tim Walz left the National Guard battalion hanging. Slithered out the door before the National Guard battalion was about to be deployed to Iraq. In a letter posted on Facebook in 2018 as he first ran for governor, retired Command Sergeant Major Thomas Barron and Paul Herr said Walz retired from his 24-year tenure with the National Guard after learning that his battalion was about to be deployed to Iraq, despite allegedly assuring his fellow troops that he would be there for them on May 16th. 2005, Walz quit, betraying his country, leaving the 1st Battalion 125th Field Artillery Group and its soldiers hanging, without its senior non-commissioned officer as the battalion prepared for war. They say that he slithered away. So, in the Democrat Party right now, as long as we're talking about animals, we have a president who's a lame duck. We have a candidate running for president who is afraid to talk to the press, afraid to take questions, afraid to do anything that's not scripted on a teleprompter. And apparently, according to these folks, we have a vice presidential candidate who's something of a snake. We'll have to get a snake sound effect. I don't have one. What was that? You're hissing. Are you hissing? You're just blowing into the microphone. That's the worst snake impression I've ever heard in my life. That's better.
Oh,
see?
All right.
My gosh. And she's still talking.
He refused, as governor, to allow any student in their public schools.
She's going to be talking for a while. So anyway, there is that. Sanctuary State Governor Tim Walz gave illegal immigrants taxpayer-funded health care, tuition, and driver's license. Tells you where he stands on that kind of stuff. And it goes on and on and on. He said about the immigrants, about building the wall to keep out immigrants.
He talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder factory. That's not how you stop this.
A 30-foot. If it's 25 feet tall, I'll invest in a 30-foot ladder. He wanted to give the immigrants who are trying to come to America ladders. That's what he wanted. He was going to invest in tall ladders. I mean, I know he was joking, but still, that tells you where he stands, right? Well, the Trump campaign did put this out. It's 15 seconds. It's a good start.
Driver's licenses for illegals, transgender surgeries for our kids, BLM riots in our streets. This was Kamala Harris's first decision as a presidential candidate. Kamala is dangerously liberal. We just can't trust her.
Well, there we go. More to come. 20 minutes now past the hour. We talk about Stoltzko and how they can build a pole barn to your specifications, and these things are great. And I want to think a little differently now. Do you own land? You say maybe you got a piece of land out in the country. Why don't you do something with that land? Do something to invest in your land by building on it. Let Stoltzko build a high-quality custom structure at a reasonable price. Now, Stoltzko is the leading company with first-class customer service in the creation of post-frame buildings such as, barn dominiums. This is basically a barn that you can live in, and they're very cool. Have you seen them? They can build pole barns for a bunch of different purposes. It can be used as a garage. It can be used as a space for your cattle or your animals or your livestock, or it could be an equestrian space. It can even be an event space. But one thing you should do is invest in that land, build something on it, and talk to the folks at Stoltz Co. about all of the possibilities. Could be a future home for you to retire in, a place to get away from in the city. That's what you need. So if you got land, think about calling the folks at Stoltz Co. at 615-622-5992 or visit them online at stoltzco.com. That's STOLTZCO, stoltzco.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
A man wanted for stabbing his husband at a Middle Tennessee Walmart. He's been apprehended, and you'll be surprised to hear where. A horrible vehicle accident in Florida leaves multiple children dead. And X marking the spot in another lawsuit. We'll have those stories at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. And yes, she's even still talking. You know, on a day when you're introducing your running mate, seems like you might give your running mate some time to talk. You ought to notice something interesting, Chris. I hadn't even noticed. I was watching the picture. They're all wearing these wristbands. And, and either the wristband flashes when it's time for them to applaud, or it's reacting to the applause. I can't tell which is which.
Yeah, they got like red and blue lights on them, and I've noticed that every time the crowd is applauding, everyone's little wristband in the crowd is also flashing. But like right now, they're just standing there. The lights are not on. So I don't know if it's sound reactive or if it's telling them.
Or is it telling them? It's like an applause sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we need for this program, by the way. Why can't we have an applause sign? That's what she's still talking.
And rule of law.
Oh, yeah.
Or a country of chaos, fear, and hate.
Again, you know, nothing that she does is not on a teleprompter. We're going to dip in here in a moment just to hear his voice, hear a little bit from him. We'll watch it. In the meantime, there's one other story that we sort of need to talk about, and many of you are not going to be pleased about this, but I mean, I have to report what is out there to be reported. FBI agents executed a search warrant late last week on Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles as the first-term Republican faces continuing scrutiny over fraudulent campaign finance reports that he filed, this according to Channel 5's reporting. Reached by telephone Tuesday, his attorney declined to comment. I'm not going to confirm or deny. We have a statement from the congressman, so he sort of has confirmed it. Details of what areas were authorized to be searched remain murky. And the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI are not commenting. Execution of the search warrant came immediately after Ogles defeated Courtney Johnston in the Republican primary as she seeks a second term in the U.S. Congress. Department of Justice guidelines generally prohibit law enforcement from taking any overt actions in investigations of a political candidate in the 60 days before an election. So they did it, I guess it would have to have been Friday night because the election, the primary was on Thursday. And then they had to get it in before another 60-day clock started ticking for the November 5th election. Back in May, Ogles filed a series of amended campaign financial reports admitting he had not personally loaned his campaign $320,000 as he had reported back in 2022. Is this what it's about? I don't know. Here's a statement from the congressman that came out shortly after this story broke. It has been widely reported for months that my campaign made mistakes in our financial filings. We have worked diligently with attorneys and reporting experts to correct the errors and ensure compliance going forward. Last Friday, yes, Friday, the FBI took possession of my cell phone. It is my understanding they are investigating the same well-known facts surrounding these filings. I will, of course, fully cooperate with them, just as I have with the Federal Election Commission. I am confident all involved will conclude that the reporting discrepancies were based on honest mistakes and nothing more. So, I did reach out to the congressman. I mean, we're blessed here at Super Talk 99.7 to have a very good relationship with all of our congressional delegation from this region. I mean, I have all of the local congressional delegations, the ones that matter, on my speed dial. I can call them. I can text them. I spoke just last night with Congressman John Rose about a minor matter, which is something that he was interested in, and I had the answer for him. And I talk all the time to Mark Green and Congressman Desjardins and others. And Andy Ogles has been very good about getting back to us. So I texted him saying, "Hey, listen, if you got something you want to say, my show is open to you. You know the number. Give us a call. We'll put you on." And I didn't get any response. Well, apparently it's because I was texting the FBI, if indeed they have his phone. So Andy Ogles probably didn't get that text message. I wonder if I should call and ask the FBI. I wonder if the FBI would answer. No, in fact, I did call, and what I got was a recording. So that's the answer to that. I don't know how much there is to this. Is it them just doing their due diligence? But it's not generally a good day when the FBI raids your office and takes your cell phone. So we'll be watching to see more on this story as it goes forward. Still haven't heard from Tim Walz, but let's go do the newscast. And maybe by the time the newscast is over, Kamala will be through and we can hear from her choice to be the vice presidential running mate. 30 minutes now past the hour.
Good afternoon. It's 5:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got plenty of sunshine. We've been hovering between 94 and 96 degrees all day. Currently, it's 94. We'll get you that forecast and a traffic report here in just a bit. News 2 reports a man has been arrested at the Canadian border a week after he allegedly stabbed his husband at a Walmart in Middle Tennessee. The Gallatin Police Department says that Larry Wayne Cole III was captured in Franklin County, Maine, after he was caught trying to cross the border into Canada yesterday. Cole was wanted for stabbing his husband at a Gallatin Walmart on July 30th. The victim was taken to a local hospital. He's expected to be okay. Border Patrol agents said they immediately recognized Cole from an alert they received and quickly apprehended him. Cole is currently waiting to be extradited back here to Tennessee. And a horrible story down in Florida. 9 people dead. Officials giving an update on last night's single vehicle crash in Belle Glade, Florida. A pickup truck carrying 10 people missed a curve, hit a guardrail, and flipped over into a canal. The latest accident reports that 6 children among those killed. Captain Tom Reyes of Palm Beach County Fire Rescue explains what he saw when he first got there.
We had divers in the water, so they were actively searching the area. You could see the wheels outside of, above the water.
And finally, the social media network formerly known as Twitter, they're filing a new lawsuit over what they're calling an illegal advertiser boycott. Here's ABC's Mike Dubusky.
X is suing a group of advertisers called the Global Alliance for Responsible Media. The suit claims the group conspired to collectively withhold billions of dollars in advertising revenue after X rolled back a number of content moderation decisions. CEO Linda Yaccarino making this appeal to the platform's users.
That puts your global town square, the one place that you can express yourself freely and openly, at long-term risk.
Many legal experts claim that advertisers, they have the right to place ads wherever they want to, and that is protected by the First Amendment. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, listen, busy bee when you need heat or cold AC, and right now it's the cold AC, isn't it? Well, they're the people to call if you have problems. And right now, during the month of August, they're having some back-to-school specials. If you purchase a new high-efficiency unit, you can register to win the Healthy Hive giveaway. It's a $2,000 sponsorship to local schools of your choice. School must be within the service area, not out of region or out of state. They have another thing, buy one, get one free for local teachers and faculty and staff. Buy one and give a free Beehive membership to teachers, faculty, and staff of any local school and higher education institution within our service area. The school must be within the service area, not out of region or out of state. So there you go. A couple of things for the teachers. I mean, it's way better than an Apple, right? You get a membership to the Beehive Club. Plumbing, they got some specials, $300 off tankless water heater conversion, $500 off main drain and main water line replacement, $500 off home drain repipe, $700 off a home water line repipe. They have $100 off home indoor air quality products and $250 off water filtration products. I had them do that at my house, and it made the water delicious. Here's the number, 615-775-7833. Learn more at busybhvac.com. It's 38. Count them, 38 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. And yes, finally, Kamala Harris has introduced her running mate, and he is now speaking to the crowd in Philadelphia. We won't stay with it long, but let's listen a little bit to what Governor Tim Walz has to say on the day that he's been chosen as the Democrats' running mate. Remember, it's the first big decision that a candidate makes. It's the first executive level, presidential level decision that they make is the person that they have chosen as their running mate. Here's a little bit of Tim Walz. This is live.
Now, Donald Trump sees the world a little differently than us. First of all, he doesn't know the first thing about service. He doesn't have time for it because he's too busy serving himself. Again and again and again, Trump weakens our economy to strengthen.
Well, we've lost that feed out of Philadelphia. I apologize. Maybe it will come back here momentarily, but we apologize for that. Here we go.
He mocks our laws. He sows chaos and division. And that's to say nothing of his record as president. He froze in the face of the COVID crisis. He drove our economy into the ground. And make no mistake, violent crime was up under Donald Trump.
You know, it's really interesting. The guy has had a comment to say about service, and he did serve. It's true, Tim Walz served in the National Guard for 24 years. But there's a story out there very critical of Tim Walz and his service because he never, ever faced any combat. And the one time that his unit was assigned and they were going to be deployed to Iraq, he quit. The moment it became known that the unit was going to be deployed to Iraq, he stepped down. So that talks about service as well, doesn't it? I mean, look, he's going to be out there doing what you just heard, going after Donald Trump. And let me just say again, the thing that it really concerns me about the situation we're in is that we've got a great story to tell. As Republicans, we got a great story to tell. We can talk about what Donald Trump did when he was president, when the economy was strong. We can talk about how there were no wars going on in the world that were caused by us. And Joe Biden cannot say the same thing. And Kamala Harris has to live with the legacy of Joe Biden because she was right there with him, helping him make these decisions. We've got a lot of good, positive things to talk about. We didn't have a border crisis. We had a stronger economy. When he left office, inflation was at 1.4%. Under Joe Biden, it rose to 9.1%, and interest rates went up sky high. And how's your portfolio doing? Have you looked at it lately? He talks about destroying the economy. Donald Trump didn't destroy the economy. It was Joe Biden who destroyed the economy. So they're going to go out there and they're going to tell the story. And you know what? Kamala Harris, say what you will about her. And, I've been very critical, and she has not given a press conference. She's not said one thing that hasn't been completely scripted. The one time that she tried to ad-lib a few things, she started doing that word salad thing again, and they immediately stopped her from doing it. So, Kamala Harris is running from the press corps, running from any questions from the public. She does nothing that's not extremely scripted. She stays on message, and she delivers her talking points. It sounds like this guy can do the same thing. I think J.D. Vance is doing a good job of putting out the talking points, but I'm very concerned about the message that's coming out of Donald Trump. Focus on the good things that you did and the disastrous things that we would have under a Kamala Harris administration, and everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. But I don't feel like we're on message like they are right now, and it concerns me a great deal. And I hate to. I know you get tired of hearing me say this, but I tell you right now, they've got a little momentum going. You see, Democrats were so afraid. They were so afraid that it was going to be Joe Biden. They were in pain, and the numbers were looking very good for Donald Trump, and the wind was at Trump's back. He could do no wrong, and everybody was talking about one thing and one thing only, that Joe Biden had lost his mind, and Joe Biden couldn't put a sentence together, and how can he possibly be the president? And everybody was focused on that, and all of a sudden, Joe Biden is out of the picture. He's a duck. He's a lame duck. And so then Kamala, they look at, and he immediately endorses Kamala, and then everybody jumps on board, and now she's the presumed nominee. I guess it's official now. She's got to be the nominee of the Democrat Party, and you know what? She stopped doing the things that she was doing that were driving people crazy, like laughing all the time, and that cackle that just drives people crazy. And then she quit trying to ad-lib things and doing the word salad thing. Now she doesn't say a word that isn't written for her on the teleprompter. She doesn't take any questions from the press corps, none whatsoever, and she's on message. And we need to get on message. The numbers are not looking very good right now. I think if you boil it down, I think Trump may lead in some of the battleground states by just a hair, but it is tightened up remarkably. In places where Donald Trump was 4, 5, 6 points ahead, it's neck and neck now. Where they were even talking for a while about Minnesota being up for grabs. Now, Minnesota hasn't voted for a Republican candidate for president in ages, but it was looking like it was so bad there for a while, it looked like Trump had a chance in Minnesota. He was doing well in Michigan. He was doing well in Pennsylvania. It was looking like it was going to be an all-out rout. And the Democrats who were panicked about Biden, they were just all the wailing and gnashing of teeth about Biden, all of a sudden have rallied around her, and they've got momentum. Democrats are juiced to vote now in a way that they weren't. And the only way that we're going to prevail in November and Donald Trump can become the next president of the United States is if the Republicans get their message together and start swinging hard. Because right now, I'm telling you, this thing is turned around. It's not, it may be a high watermark. It may be, some people have talked about the Democrat sugar high. They're on a big sugar high right now because it's not going to be Joe Biden, and that eventually things will turn around. I think that probably is true, but it will happen. The sooner we get on message, the better it will be. And we're not on message. Well, not all of us are. I mean, I think J.D. Vance is.
My view on it is it just highlights how radical Kamala Harris is. This is a person who listened to the Hamas wing of her own party and selecting a nominee. This is a guy who's proposed shipping more manufacturing jobs to China, who wants to make the American people more reliant on garbage energy instead of good American energy, and has proposed defunding the police just as Kamala Harris does. I think it's interesting, actually. They make an interesting tag team because, of course, Tim Walz allowed rioters to burn down Minneapolis in the summer of 2020, and then the few who got caught, Kamala Harris helped bail them out of jail. So it is more instructive for what it says about Kamala Harris, that she doesn't care about the border, she doesn't care about crime, she doesn't care about American energy, and most importantly, she doesn't care about the Americans who have been made to suffer under those policies.
Bam, 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 bam. Point, 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 point. It's the way it ought to be. It's dialed in. It's right. And look, I mean, I know that you, within the sound of my voice, you love it when Donald Trump, he starts, doing that Donald Trump thing, and he starts calling names, and he starts raising questions about whether she's Indian or she's black, and you think that's just great. But you know what? You're already in the tent. We got to get the people who are not in the tent. Now, I don't think this guy's, I think he's going to wear thin pretty quick, this Tim Walz guy. There's a lot of problems. His service problem, his DUI, the fact that he, walked away from a service at a time when his battalion needed him in a huge way. He walked away from it. He's a politician that has got issues that are going to be problematic and difficult to explain. But they're not having to explain it right now. Why? Because they got the media on their side. To overcome all that, we've got to be incredibly good. We've got to be incredibly focused. Our message has got to be what you hear from J.D. Vance. It's got to be sharp. It's got to be pointed. It's got to be scripted and not just out there riffing. Again, I know you love it, but you're already in the tent. You're already on the Trump train, just like I am. And I'm very worried when I look across here and I see that the energy that has infused the Democrat Party, I hope it's their high water mark. I hope that that's the way it is. But I got to tell you, in a campaign, you look for momentum. Who has the momentum? For a long time, Trump has had the momentum, mainly because he was running against Biden. But it has changed, and the Democrats now have the mo. And my hope and my prayer is that this will. If we get on message and we start hitting them square between the eyes about their positions, about the things that are way outside mainstream political thought in this country, it will come around. But we've got to be focused, and we've got to be disciplined, and we have to be just dead on with our messaging, and we have to stick to the messaging. That is the way you win a campaign. And right now, I'm seeing, I think, maybe a little recognition of the fact that we need to get things in better order. But I hope that will be the case, because as it stands today, I am concerned. And I just got to be honest with you. I'm a little concerned. 50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Don't be surprised this week to see other jewelry store owners shopping at Genesis Diamonds. They'll be taking advantage of Genesis' most aggressive offer ever. All GIA diamond engagement rings marked down an extra 20% below the Genesis everyday price. That's right, the vault is open and Genesis is selling the finest handcrafted diamond rings at rock-bottom prices now for a limited time. The GIA is the world's standard in diamond grading, certifying accuracy and documenting quality so you can buy with confidence. Every Genesis engagement ring is included in this event, from a half carat up to 20 carat stones, all shapes, rounds, radiants, pear shapes, princess cuts, emerald cuts, cushion cuts, ovals, whatever you want. There has never been a better time to get an extreme value price on a GIA certified diamond, perfectly set in a gorgeous engagement ring. Hurry in for the best selections. It's Genesis Diamonds GIA Diamond Extravaganza. Save an extra 20% on these rare, precious diamond rings. Now for a limited time, 1 for Customer Please exclusively at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs. See the store for details.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
J.D. Vance wasting no time in categorizing his Democratic VP opponent as a radical leftist. The FBI intercepting another assassination attempt on former President Trump. And Tropical Storm Debbie, she's not done with her destruction just yet. We'll have those stories at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And coming up here in the next hour, we're going to be talking about some local news affairs. There has been a sort of a rearranging of the deck chairs at the Metro Nashville Police Department. What's that all about? It's something we started talking about some time ago, and it has now come to fruition. We'll have that story and much more coming up in the next hour of The Drive. It is 57 minutes past the hour. You know, we'd like it to be the case. Wish there was some easy way to solve your back pain. What is back pain? It's pressure on your nerves. And there's no pill, there's no magic cream that you can apply that will take care of that. You really only have a couple of choices. Now, one involves undergoing the knife. The other is non-invasive spinal decompression. Now, I chose non-surgical spinal decompression at the Wellness Institute of Nashville, and it has worked for me. I have problems in my neck and my lower back, and it's much better thanks to the treatments at the Nashville Institute, the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Their state-of-the-art facilities have the latest high-tech equipment, and they offer the latest non-surgical procedures. Getting better is important to Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley, so they are offering half off. Listen, half off spinal decompression treatments and half off the cost of the KT knee machine treatments, which is sort of like spinal decompression for your knee. You got knee issues, you need to give this a try. If you're a new patient, you'll get an exam, an x-ray, a consultation, and your first treatment, and all of that will only be $23. What a deal. I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Call them today, 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Good evening. It is 6 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Sunshine. It's been hot all day. As if you didn't notice, we got up to 96. Currently, we are at 93 degrees. We'll have the forecast and a traffic report here momentarily. Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance speaking at a campaign event in Philadelphia today as the two campaigns make appearances in battleground states. Vance said that he did call Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to congratulate him on being chosen as Kamala Harris's running mate. And then he proceeded to criticize his record of liberal policies in Minnesota.
What Tim Walz's selection says is that Kamala Harris has bent the knee to the far left of her party, which is what she always does.
The FBI says it has stopped another attempt to assassinate former President Trump. ABC's Andy Field, he reports from Washington.
The government arresting a Pakistani national with claimed ties to Iran on charges he plotted to kill former President Trump. Court documents claim Asif Merchant flew from Pakistan to the U.S. to hire killers. The government caught him because one of the people he contacted was an FBI informant. Investigators say they found no connection between this plot and the man who tried to kill Donald Trump in Pennsylvania last month.
Several possible tornadoes have been reported in the Charleston area of South Carolina as Tropical Storm Debbie makes its way north along the East Coast. The state is bracing for possible historic rainfall and very dangerous flash flooding. At a briefing on the state storm response this afternoon, South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster said so far the state has not had any storm deaths, but warned the storm's slow track still poses a danger.
What we have happening is this storm is coming up. It's moving very slowly. It's got a lot of rain in it, and it is going out over the ocean and gathering some strength and coming back in.
Back here in Middle Tennessee, Metro Nashville police are investigating after a pedestrian was struck by a train in Madison on, that happened last night. Police were called to the tracks between East Campbell Road and Gallatin Pike North after the train conductor, he reported hitting a person on the tracks. The conductor told police that he tried to warn the person who was spotted sitting on the tracks. The train kept going and the man refused to move before he was struck. The pedestrian was pronounced dead at the scene. This investigation is still ongoing. And finally, the season comes to an end for the Goodlettsville All-Star Little League team today. The Tennessee state champs losing to the Florida state team in the championship game of the Southeast Little League Regional Tournament in Warner Robins, Georgia. It was a great season for the boys, though, so congratulations to Coach Spain and all of the players as they represented the Volunteer State proudly. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Wilson. Hour number 4 of the drive now underway on this 6th day of August. The big story today, of course, is that Kamala Harris has chosen Tim Walz. Who? Tim Walz. You know Tim Walz. No, you don't know? Yeah, neither did I. I covered Congress when he was in Congress, and I don't remember him at all. But he went on to be the governor of Minnesota, don't you know? And now he's the running mate for Kamala Harris. You got to look at a running mate and you say, well, it's the first sort of executive level, presidential level decision that a candidate running for president makes. Who is their running mate? There are a lot of problems with this guy. He is extremely liberal. Those who have looked at it and said that this is the most liberal ticket that the Democrats have put up are absolutely correct. If only we could get about pointing that out. We'll try to do that in the days ahead. I guarantee you, when the American people get to know Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz and the things they stand for, which are way outside of mainstream political thought, they can't help themselves. That's the way they are. They go big, and they are going to. I think many voters are going to be alienated from what the Democrats are offering. So there is that. I did see an interesting story before I move on. In thedailycaller.com. It looks at an MSNBC assessment. And so the question is, do they think that this guy who's sort of avuncular, sort of, puts on a ball cap, he talks like he can relate to the good old boys, he's a hunter, although he's in favor of what they call nonsensical gun control, or sensical gun control, not nonsensical. It's nonsensical to me, but sensical to them. And so, he's a guy that they think, well, if you think he's going to appeal in blue collar areas, you have to look at what he's done in Minnesota, and he hasn't done that at all. Minnesota is a lot like some of these other states where, you have a big rural area that's red, but the heavy vote area, that like Minneapolis and the major cities, are blue in a big way. And it is those blues areas that have carried him. He actually described rural Minnesota as largely an area full of rocks and cows. That's how he describes the rural part of it. That's what he thinks about people who that's just a bunch of rocks and cows out there. Doesn't matter. He doesn't care. So anyway, one way or the other, that's the big news of the day. If you're just getting in your car, I guarantee you, once they start to know these guys, the tide is going to shift. I'm going to maintain optimism that the tide will shift. Looking at local stuff, I got a story here that we actually sort of had a lot to do with the telling of this story. You may remember a while back, we had on a guy, he was a former lieutenant with the Office of Professional Accountability at the Metro Nashville Police Department. His name was, he was a former lieutenant by the name of Garrett Davidson. And he has filed a 61-page report that really took aim at the management of the Metro Nashville Police Department and specifically the management of the Office of Professional Accountability where he worked. He was very critical of all that. Well, now comes word through many different reports that the person in charge of the Office of Professional Accountability has been removed and been sent to some other place to do work for the police department. Her name is Kathy Morante. She's been the director of the Office of Professional Accountability since 2013. Police Chief John Drake said he thinks replacing her will improve and strengthen operations at the Office of Professional Accountability. This according to Metro Nashville Police Department spokesperson Kristen Mumford. First reported on the Nashville Banner comes more than 2 months after a former lieutenant in the OPA alleged in an explosive complaint that we sort of told you about first, right here on Super Talk 99.7 against the top Metro Nashville PD officials. And he lobbied to eliminate the OPA's external civilian counterpart through a state law passed in 2023. Oh, so now in charge of the OPA is Commander Jason Starling. I've had some encounters with him. I found him to be a pretty straightforward guy, very, very honest and straight from the shoulder kind of fella. He's the ranking sworn member at the OPA. Mayor Freddie O'Connell said Friday he was not involved in the decision to remove Morante from her post, but hinted at past issues of concern when he was asked to respond. Said Mayor Freddie O'Connell, I was not involved in that decision. I will say there had been multiple reports well before this year that seemed to be issues of concern, but I think this was something that Chief Drake decided, according to Mayor O'Connell. He said he planned to talk with Drake about Morante's involvement in the new area where she's been assigned. She's been assigned to a cold case division where they're investigating bombings that occurred in Nashville in the late 50s and the early 60s. And those cases are being reopened after a new book has been written examining those crimes. Mumford, the police spokesman, pointed to Morante's legal background. She was an assistant DA in Nashville for 14 years before joining the OPA. In late May, it was Lieutenant Garrett Davidson who filed a 61-page complaint with the OPA describing alleged corruption within the ranks of Nashville's police department. Davidson alleged that at least 2 top officials in Metro Nashville worked to help get legislation passed that would ban police oversight boards statewide. And, we had one here, and now it's become not a police oversight board. It's been a police review board. A police review board, which is different, apparently, and doesn't have as much power. And did indeed this person work hand in hand to get that law passed? Well, the Community Oversight Board would not be happy to learn that there was somebody within the police department working against their efforts. I'm not a big fan of the old Community Oversight Board and not that real wild about a Community Review Board, but one way or the other, there was somebody within the police department who was working, then that would be a problem, and that is the allegation that has been leveled. Nashville Banner tells largely the same story. They broke the story, apparently. Metro Nashville, they quote Metro Nashville Police Department spokesman Don Aaron, confirmed the changes at OPA to the banner, saying that John Drake believes this change in leadership will improve and strengthen OPA operations. I did speak to Lieutenant Garrett Davidson before the show today, shortly before 3 o'clock, and to get his reaction. He said he had heard this. He was not aware that the story had broken in a bigger way and was now being publicly reported. He says that he is still working with the law firm that's been hired by the city to investigate his 61-page allegations against the police department. He said he's had several conversations with them, and that he said he thinks it's going to be a very slow process, a slow walking thing. He says that they have talked to him, but they've never been able to get past item 1 in their conversations. So and there's 61 pages of it, and they're still stuck on item 1. How long will it take them to do this internal investigation to find out if there's any merit to the allegations that have been leveled? So he suggests to me it's going to be a long and very slow process. Let's see what else we got here. A couple of other things that are local stories that I think are pretty interesting. I did not know this until recently, but I did happen to notice that apparently when you need the FBI in Nashville, Tennessee, you basically have to rely on officers that are in Memphis or Knoxville. There is no Nashville FBI office. Now, they have some resident agents here who live here on a permanent basis, but they have no real main office, no main field office. Well, that's going to change. They're going to close down the Memphis office. They're going to close down the Knoxville office, and then they're going to move the main office here. They will still have resident agents in those locations, but they're going to be moving here to the center part of the state. By and large, field offices primarily located in major cities. Resident agencies typically located in smaller towns and cities. Field offices are responsible for investigations, assessing crime threats, working with partners on cases, while resident agencies are part of field offices and provide broader regional coverage. So there you go. They are reorganizing, and they're bringing the main field office to Nashville. I have some concerns, of course, as you do as well. I know about the FBI, given how political they have come over the recent years, and certainly, I think we're well justified in having those concerns about the upper levels of management in Washington. I still think, by and large, that the FBI field agents and people who work on the front lines, the rank and file FBI agents, I think there's some good patriotic people there, and I'm not completely anti-FBI, but I certainly think needs to be some real changes in the upper echelons and the way they look at things. I don't quite frankly trust the Washington Bureau of the FBI. And then this story, which just blows my mind, and I'll tell you why I'm really concerned about it. A Nashville postal worker has been placed in a non-duty status after being spotted in a viral TikTok video allegedly dumping mail in a dumpster. This happened in Antioch. A TikTok posted by user Ms. Denton19 shows what appears to be a U.S. Postal Service worker in Antioch dumping boxes of mail into a dumpster over the weekend. And this is what she wrote, and I'll try to read it exactly. You gots to be smarter than this. So if y'all waiting on something important coming from the southeast region of Nashville, well, it's in my backyard dumpster. The local inspector general office is aware of the video. This person has been put on non-duty status. And here's why I'm concerned. Bigger picture, much bigger picture. I mean, this is not good. Don't get me wrong. I hadn't thought of it this way until just the other day, but when you think about it, the largest voting precinct in America is the United States Postal Service. They handle more ballots than any other, election bureau, any election site in the entire country. And while when you go to vote and you cast your vote, you may notice there are these things. There are things that they do to make sure there's some integrity about the process and the system is not being abused. It's not perfect, but there are at least some, efforts to try to make sure that you are who you say you are when you cast your ballot. What happens, when these ballots get returned to the post office? Really concerning. I mean, if you happen to be someone who's a Democrat or a Democrat activist who works for the Postal Service and you happen to service an area that is largely Republican in nature, it is a very red area, and you know where they are. In our area, we know where they are. It's pretty clear where they are. And you find a bunch of these mail-in ballots that are coming back in and they get in your possession. What's to stop you from dumping them in a dumpster in Antioch? There's no ballot security with mail-in balloting, and we have to have trustworthy people in the mail service. And I'm not completely convinced that that's a good strategy. I worry about the ballots that are handled by the Postal Service. I worry that they're not going to be handled with integrity, and I worry that things like this may happen. They have happened. We have records of them happening, and you know what? If they're good at it, if they know what they're doing, you'll never know that it happened. You'll never know when you sent your ballot in whether it got counted or not. There's no way for you to know. So we put a lot of trust in these postal workers. And this incident, I don't think it involved any ballots, but who knows? But one way or the other, this incident raises real concerns about the integrity of the process when you utilize mail-in balloting, which is big in many states around the country. Causes me pause. I'm caused to have pause. It's 22 past the hour. Have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days when someone tells you, hey, that thing you're looking for will be ready at 4 o'clock, and you get there at 4 o'clock and it's not ready? People are really tired of that kind of stuff. And if you've had it with unreliable vehicle repair shops, come to URFIX. URFIX has your vehicle ready when they say it'll be ready. You can count on them. You won't be standing around wasting your time. URFIX repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer without dealer pricing. That's because dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of a dealership's overhead, and that is a lot of money. Why would you want to pay for that? At URFIX, reliable means a 3-year nationwide warranty plus a free loaner car with every repair. Make sure you call ahead. Loaner cars are very popular. But if you're tired of unreliable repair shops, come to where it is reliable. URFIX, family-owned for 24 years. Call 844-URFIX or visit myurfix.com. That's myurfix.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
A Crossville detective indicted on an assault charge. And we'll have today's closing money news. That's all coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 26 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive on Super Talk 99.7. The continuing investigation into the assassination attempt on Donald Trump continues to be a very interesting story to follow. Whistleblowers are coming out of the woodworks. They have things to say that raise real concerns about the quality of the work the Secret Service was doing. Here is Senator Josh Hawley talking about the whistleblowers that are talking to him, and what they have to say is quite troubling.
This individual, the site agent, the lead agent, was known to the Trump campaign to be inexperienced, to be ineffectual, to be frankly incompetent at their job. Well, I'm also told by whistleblowers that on that day, she was not enforcing the normal security protocols. She was not checking people's IDs. She did not use Secret Service agents. Most of the agents there that day were not Secret Service agents. They were Homeland Security agents. And get this, most of them had never worked a rally before. And she didn't train them or integrate them. From top to bottom, it is a miracle, not only that Trump is alive, but that more good Americans were not killed. It's unbelievable. IDs were not checked to allow individuals into secure areas. In other words, it was a total free-for-all. Whistleblowers portrayed to me a situation that was totally out of control, where people were milling around, including in what were supposed to be highly secure areas. Nobody knew who they were. By the way, it was also the lead site agent's job to make sure that the line of sight for where Trump was clear, that agents could see all angles. And she didn't do that. In fact, I'm told that the line of sight was obstructed, which means that agents from different angles couldn't really see around Trump, couldn't see potential dangers to Trump. This is pretty textbook stuff. What whistleblowers say to me is none of it was done properly. None of it was done by the book. And frankly, when you know all that, it's amazing more people weren't killed. This person needs to be fired, as does anybody who had leadership on that day. Whistleblowers are coming forward from the Secret Service because they can't believe what leadership is doing. They cannot believe that the Secret Service is not taking action to clear out the rot, frankly. They're scared to death this is going to happen again. This individual was inexperienced, that she was known to the campaign to be, frankly, not very good at her job. They had concerns about this individual before the Butler rally. Again, when she was assigned to Butler, the campaign was worried. They thought, uh-oh, this has not gone well before, and my gosh, it didn't go well that day.
And this comes on the heels of a report that was done and has just sort of emerged about how the Secret Service blew it on January 6th. And that they didn't do a good job of protecting Kamala Harris. They walked her right past a pipe bomb that was not noticed. There are a bunch of other things that sort of got buried and weren't going to come out to the public's notice until this attempt on Donald Trump's life, July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. So there are some real criticism being leveled at the Secret Service. Now, against that backdrop, this story from the Washington Times. Americans are deeply skeptical of the official storyline on the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. 45% of those who were surveyed believe in a larger conspiracy, and 22% are unsure about what to think. A lot of people believe in a second shooter, according to the poll, and Democrats actually think it was staged. That somehow this is all staged in order to puff up Trump. There's some people who suggest he cut his own ear. It's just bizarre. But there you have it. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock.
Good evening. It is 6:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Sunshine and 91 degrees, a traffic report, and another forecast coming up. Fox 17 here in Nashville reporting a detective with the Crossville Police Department has been indicted on an assault charge after an alleged conflict with a suspect. Crossville detective Tyrell Lawrence is accused of using force following a criminal interview back on June 3rd. The individual was sent to a local hospital and treated for injuries. Yesterday, the Cumberland County grand jury returned an indictment charging Lawrence with one count of assault. Lawrence turned himself in to the Cumberland County Jail and was booked. He was then released on his own recognizance. We now turn to today's closing money news with Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. What goes down eventually comes up, and that's what happened to stocks after the free fall on Monday. The Dow soared about 700 points to close up 294, up about 0.75%. The S&P added 54 points for its best day. Since the end of 2023, it was up 1%, and the Nasdaq rose 167 points, up over 1%. Calm is returning to Wall Street after a nerve-wracking start to the week, and not just for the markets here, but for around the world. It was the worst day since 1987. Japan's Nikkei also clawed back much of its losses. Strong earnings from Uber and other companies helped things along. Most stocks closed higher. That was the mirror opposite of Monday, when most called it a session in the red. Analysts say we could be in a volatile period, so what's the average investor to do? Most experts say do nothing. Wait it out.
That is the latest news. Traffic, weather, they're next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the good folks at DT McCall. Been around for more than a century. Think about that. How many companies do you know that are family-owned businesses that last more than a century? Not many. Not many. And the reason that they have that reputation and they've lasted so long is because they really do treat people honestly, above board, forthrightly, because they're honest people and they want to give you a good deal. What else do you want? You go into the store and you say, hey, I want that. How much does that cost me? And they'll tell you and they'll give you a good price. And I've done this a lot of times. I've gone there. I've actually gone through this process. It's always a good, fair price. And then, the thing is, you can walk out of there with confidence knowing that they're not going to nickel and dime you. They're not going to say, do you want it delivered? Well, that'll be extra. They're not going to say, hey, do you want the old thing hauled away? No. Of course, they're not going to do that. That's not the way they play. But other big box stores do that, and they charge you more for that stuff. No, when you get a price, it's an honest price, and there won't be any upcharges, free delivery, setup, and haul away. That's what you've come to expect from DT McCall. Whether it's furniture, they've got everything. Appliances, more than you could imagine. Whether you need something for your outdoor work in the yard, a mower, an edger, that kind of thing, they've got it. You need a gun safe, they've got it. I mean, just about anything you could think of, electronics, they've got it. Find out about their 5 convenient locations, one of them not far from you, by going to the website, dtmccalls.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, californiaclosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, californiaclosets.com.
It's 38 minutes now past the hour, about 22 minutes to go, and then we'll hand it over to Mark Levin after the news at the top of the hour, and he will carry on through the evening. You can count on him to do that. He carries on. He does quite well. Okay, there's an interesting story here, and I think it's interesting in a lot of different ways, but let me explain what the basic of the stories are. Trump takes a stunning lead over Harris with surprising group in blue state. All right, so this is a poll that was taken in New York, and former President Trump has moved into the lead among Jewish voters in deep state New York. Trump has garnered the support of 50% of likely Jewish voters in New York, according to Seattle Research Institute poll released Tuesday, a slight lead over Vice President Harris. But I'm telling you, in the past, Democrat voters have been a very reliable demographic for the Democrats. No doubt about it. It's a slight lead, but I mean, you're taking away from what has been a traditional Democrat stronghold. Jewish voters have voted heavily toward the Democrats. And again, he's not likely to win New York. But what's interesting about this poll is it came out just before Tim Walz was named as Kamala Harris's running mate, and many people have viewed this as a snub of Josh Shapiro. I mean, and really, honestly, the decision doesn't make a lot of sense if you're looking strictly at the numbers. Well, you got Minnesota. It's a reliably blue state. It has been for the last 30, 40 years. So not likely was Trump going to prevail in Minnesota. And then on the other hand, you look at Pennsylvania, where Josh Shapiro was the governor, and it's a very purple state. And having the governor of Pennsylvania as your running mate might help you with the Keystone State voters. But Kamala chose Tim Walz over Governor Shapiro because Governor Shapiro is Jewish and has a strong stand on supporting Israel, which Democrats are very worried about having that position. I mean, I think they quietly support Israel, but they don't do it in a very loud and public way, because if they did that, they will alienate a lot of young voters who, for some reason, think that the Palestinians are the ones who are wronged here, and they believe in supporting the Palestinians and Hamas. I don't understand it, but that's the way it is. So they're very worried about losing the young votes. But they're going to lose some Jewish votes there, it would appear. Now, because this was taken before that decision was made, it may even get worse for Democrats with Jewish voters. That will be interesting to watch. So there we go. Something to think about. Trump leading with Democrats who are Jewish in New York. How will that play out nationwide, writ large? It'll be interesting to see. We haven't spent a great deal of time talking about Hurricane Debbie, Tropical Storm Debbie, and all of that. But I need to tell you that in South Carolina, see, it came into Florida, it crossed across the peninsula of Florida, and now it's climbing up the East Coast, and it's moving slow, and it is dumping a ton of rain. It is expected that there's going to be flooding. And there's even talk about dams being failing because they can't hold back the water. And they say that this will all the way go up to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and southern New York. There will be flooding, rainfall. And so it's going to be a bad one to watch. And again, with hurricanes, more than the wind most of the time, it's the water you got to watch out for. It's the water that will get you more than the wind in most cases. So this one's going to be a bad one. Main reason why is it's just churning and just dumping rain, and it's moving slow. And those three things are not good, not very good. I told you about this story a minute ago. I think it's pretty interesting. The January 6th bombshell. This is something to really watch, because we're now looking more critically at the Secret Service. It would appear from the reporting that I'm seeing that it's becoming quite clear that the Secret Service, which we always thought of as being 10 foot tall and bulletproof, they were just like superheroes. They could do no wrong. They were the elite protection agency in the world. And now we're finding out that they're human just like us, and they make a bunch of mistakes. And some of those mistakes nearly got Donald Trump killed. And there was a report that was conducted by the Inspector General of the Homeland Security, and they were looking at the actions of the Secret Service, not in Butler, Pennsylvania, but on January 6th, and they have a boatload of criticisms to level at them, things that they did wrong, information they developed that they did not share, the fact that they marched Kamala Harris, who was then, the potential vice presidential running mate, or she was the potential vice president. I guess you would call her the vice president-elect at that moment, and she was there, and they walked her right past a pipe bomb within a few feet. I mean, that's a huge mistake. So all this stuff got reported and then got buried. And the reason we're finding out about it now is because Congress got wind of it, and they're asking for copies of the report. And it brings to our attention that the Inspector General of Homeland Security outlined many of the problems that we're now seeing with the Secret Service in Butler, that they weren't good about communication, that they were sloppy in the way they were handling the protective duties that they have, that things were going south and not in a good way. And again, I know many of you think this was a set-up deal. I am not among those who believe it. I believe it's going to be, at the end of the day, you're going to find out that there was deep incompetence within the Secret Service and some levels, and that for one reason or another, I have my theories. One of them has to do with the DEI policies of the Biden administration. They were putting people in positions of importance that were not up to the task. And they were doing stupid stuff like, leaving a roof unprotected, unwatched, all kinds of things. And there were signs even back on January 6th that indeed something was not quite right with the Secret Service. 76% of your income taxes are now going to pay interest on the national debt. Think about that for a moment. 76 cents out of every dollar that you send to the federal government as a taxpayer, as an American taxpayer, is going to pay for the national debt. And we're in over deep now. If you had a company and you ran it that way, and 76% of every dollar that you made went to pay the interest on the debt that you had incurred, there's a little term they call that bankruptcy. You'd be bankrupt. You wouldn't last very long. This comes from the latest data from June. The government spent $140 billion on interest for Treasury debt securities and collected $185 billion in individual income taxes the same month. See, we got just a little bit more than what we'd need to pay off the debt coming in. And if you stay on this track, there's going to come a point where we will have to take every penny that you send the government, that you and I send the government, will go to debt payments, paying the interest on the debt. And when you can't, and it'll get to the point where the interest rate, the interest on the debt is higher than the money you have coming in. In other words, the government will be upside down, unable to pay its debts. Folks, we've got to get this under control. And who do you think is better equipped to do that? Donald Trump, who's run a business and understands these kinds of things, run very successful businesses, put our economy in good shape. I mean, is that the solution? Or do you look over across the aisle and you look at Kamala Harris, who never saw a tax and spend project that she didn't like? More liberal than Bernie Sanders, and she got a vice presidential running mate that's right there with her. Folks, this is scary. This is very scary, and I don't know what to tell you except that we are spending way too much, and we're not bringing in enough, and nobody wants to raise taxes, and I don't want that either. But how about cutting a little government spending, perhaps? What a concept. What an idea that would be. To try to live within your means. You have to live within your means, and I have to live within my means, and businesses have to operate in a way that keeps the bills paid, and you can't run up too much debt when you're in business. But none of that applies to the federal government. Finally, a story that I've been wanting to get in for some while. Drinking, we talk to you when it's hot outside, and right now it's still 92 degrees. So, we always tell you, drink a lot of water. But they actually now, I see this story that came from the Wall Street Journal a couple of days ago. Drinking too much water can actually be dangerous for you. They talk about a landscaper, 74-year-old, had consumed nearly 3 gallons of water over 5 hours in hopes that it would fuel his hard day of work. Instead, he felt nauseated and fatigued. He went home to rest. He felt chest pain. He had trouble breathing. He went to the hospital for what he thought was a heart attack. But surprise, surprise, he had water intoxication. You can drink too much water. Drinking water, crucial for preventing dehydration, keeping the body functioning, particularly in the heat of summer. But consuming too much over a short period can lead to health problems, including disorientation, nausea, vomiting, and in severe cases, seizures or death. Overhydration, they call it. A growing issue. Some researchers say as more people train for endurance competitions like marathons and heat waves become more frequent and reusable water bottles become a staple of everyday life, the message of staying hydrated is so ubiquitous that the 40-ounce stainless steel tumblers have become a status symbol. I have one right here. All you folks on Super Talk TV, there's my Buc-ee's water. I'm thirsty right now.
Careful.
Oh, no. Can't drink too much. People have this fear they're always dehydrated or underhydrated. They need to fix that regularly. That's probably not usually the case. Water intoxication isn't as well known as dehydration. That can make it difficult to point the cause of symptoms, which can be similar to those associated with heat exhaustion or heat stroke. When someone drinks too much water over a short period, it can lead to the dilution of the sodium in the blood or water intoxication, and the condition can grow particularly dangerous when it leads to the swelling of brain cells. The expansion puts pressure on certain parts of the brain and can lead to coma, seizures, or death. Brooke Shields, the actress, told Glamour magazine last year she suffered a seizure after drinking too much water. So, find the happy balance, folks. 50 minutes now past the hour. The United Structural Systems, good people who can help you if you have problems, things like foundation issues, or you got a basement that's wet and sloppy and ugly. You got mold growing down there. Maybe you need some concrete that is leveled. And the things, we talk about them all the time, about the kind of things that show that you have a problem. Well, if you have a problem, you should take advantage of their back-to-school offers. 10% off any job that's over $2,500. Well, that's good news. Same as cash options are available. No payment, no interest for 1 year with approved credit. Not a bad deal right there. And listen, here's the other thing they want you to know. If you think you got a problem, it doesn't cost a penny for them to come out and take a look at it. They'll come out. They'll do a free inspection. You don't pay a penny until you decide to go forward, and you don't pay a penny until that job is done to your satisfaction. That's the way it is with USS. So call them today at 615-488-7855. Foundation repair, basement waterproofing. You need mold treatment, concrete leveling. Listen, they've been serving Middle Tennessee and Southern and Western Kentucky for 30 years now. At USS, they guarantee their best. Learn more at USSTN.com or call them, and here's the number, write it down, 615-488-7855.